Why is that very dark? That's very strange. 1 second. Nope, that's not right. There we go. Hello everybody, how are we all? I hope you're well. I am. What have we been up to? What are we up to on this fine day of our Lord Jesus, baby Jesus Christ? What in the fuck? 255 starting off as it means to go on? Fucking mentally. Why? OBS, why did you fuck me? Why did you actually fuck me, mate? What are you doing? What are you fucking doing, you absolute cunt? Fucking hell. Monkey. Yeah, I've been watching the snooker final as well. It's been good. Good to see Williams pull it back, at least make it competitive, you know. You don't want an absolute belting, do you? 1 second. Kev, you watched the whole Ethan debate? No, I did not. I intend to maybe watch the rest of it next week. Fucking hell, what am I sneezing for now? Absolutely fine until I go live and then I'm fucked. Oh. You're being competitive, what does that mean? What? Oh yeah, there were various versions of it, weren't there? Yeah. So there's that one. There's the one, I just went with the simple, straightforward Kev, but there's that one. Oh. Apologies everyone, I'm very... Ugh. I'm very, for some reason I'm sniffly now, for literally no reason. Oh. Yeah, Marinaka, we got to at least part of that one. That bit of the debate, and it was fucking awful. Anyway, we're going to be on with No Justice MTG. Curtis was going to join us, but he decided to get very drunk last night, and he's now hungover and doesn't want to do it anymore. Nah. The Turning Point lefts have abandoned us. They've gone woke. I'm only joking, it's fine. I don't give a fuck. He can do entirely as he pleases. Yes. So it's just a regular Sunday, me and No Justice watching some award-winning gerbalism. It should be fun. And by fun, I mean a cavalcade of piss. Because, obviously, what else was it going to be? Pardon me. What's this? Slight delay with No Justice of the MTGs. We'll wait for it. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. It's not an issue. Okay, it's not an issue. Oh, pardon me. Very, very sniffly. I don't know where that's come from. That wasn't necessary, was it? Anyway, thank you, Madcap, for raiding in. I missed that one. Much love. And thank you, Mr. Peter Wood. Mr. Peter Wood. For resubscribing for 8 months. You are 1 month away from a post-birth baby bubble abortion. Which is the best kind of abortion. It's the cocaine makes you sniff a lot. Is anything about my content make you think I take cocaine? I'm like the most downer cokehead ever, if that's the case. Have you seen Anna Kasparian's The View ripoff? Can we watch it on stream another day? I did hear about it. I haven't looked into it yet though. But that seems like that could be quite fun. Leave the gerbils out of it. Keep them out of your pants. That's a good advice for everyone. Rakati Wood. Which, by the way, you should hit the follow button. It's free and makes you 9.4% hotter than you were previously. What is this?
I bought a free train ticket at Canoe.
Literally, that's what the title of the film, the thing is called. I bought a free train ticket. Okay, well, we've got a couple of minutes, so we can waste them on this, I suppose.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Victory is ours.
Welcome aboard. Welcome to the Kevolution, friend. Don't forget, you can hit the follow button yourself if you wanted to. Everybody, if you're new here or whatever. Yeah, I usually watch on YouTube. Well, you can still watch on YouTube if you want to. You don't have to, though. Yeah. Hay fever. I've never had hay fever before. So I don't know why I would have hay fever now, but I don't know. Maybe. I have no idea. Anyway, yeah, you can hit the follow button. You can subscribe. You can subscribe with Amazon Prime. You can give subs to the community. As indeed, the absolute fucking legend, Mad Cat Scotty Eye. Everyone go and follow Mad Cat. Just did for Rakati Wood. So yeah, you can do that as well. Thank you. Is this the more active joint? That's the way we like to think of it, Hepcat. It's the most swingingest joint in the world.
Like a baby otter.
Oh, it turns out we're not going to get to this. Okay. Don't forget there are other ways you can give me money as well, so, just saying.
Hey there. Hey, Kev.
Hello.
Before
Stop it.
delay,
Yeah.
I apologise.
What was that, sorry?
Sorry for the delay, I do apologise.
You do not need to apologise at all. I am the most feckless person on this platform, so your occasional slight tardiness is absolutely acceptable.
Reasonable, reasonable.
Yeah.
How are you doing? How are we?
I'm well. How are you? Apparently Nigel Farage is king now or something.
I mean,
he's got
basically,
he's got 6 councillors, so brilliant. Like,
I mean, it's fun, it's interesting. Like someone was pointing out on TikTok that in councillor terms, basically what's happened is there's broadly been a shift of Tory to Reform and Labour to Lib Dem.
Yeah.
So actually, in raw numbers terms, there's not like that many more like explicitly right-wing councillors overall. There's just been a shift in terms of which party represents it. Of course, the Dems, Labour, both centre-right anyway, but you know what I mean, right? The bad guys, quote unquote, there's the same amount as there was before. They're just wearing cyan instead of navy.
Yes. Pretty much. And piss yellow instead of red.
exactly.
Yeah.
And there's appreciable increase in green councillors as well. So
that is true, yeah. So it's not all terrible, and you've got to bear in mind it's council elections. The UKIP always used to do well in European elections, bizarrely, because people feel like they can throw their vote away a lot more.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
need to get all of this stuff about all of these polls that say they're going to get 300 MPs. No, they're not. Unless if it carries on like this for another 4 years, maybe. But right now, if the election was today, they would not get 300 MPs. That's fucking silly.
I mean, if the polls that show they have like 300 MPs are all like find out now, which is a very reform-friendly pollster.
But even some of the more respectable ones have them at like 240 or something. And I think that's a fucking stretch, to be honest. I can't see them being the biggest party at the minute. They just don't have the infrastructure nationwide.
I mean, that is a good point. That is a good point. When it comes to Westminster elections, having the ground game of energising a voter base is something that only the major parties have right now. Yeah. But of course, first past the post system, slight leads, especially with electoral fragmentation, can lead to some incredibly polarized results, right?
Oh god, yeah.
So if there's like 26 Reform, 22 Labour, 19 Tory, that could be a Reform majority. Like genuinely kind of crazy seat numbers could be could be on
Well,
on the table.
yeah. Well, I saw the dear leader himself, Sir Kid Starmer himself. His Holborn and St Pancras seat. It was, if the polling suggests win the way it did today, he would win, but with 29% of the vote.
Exactly. Yeah, 'cause
That's
obviously
farcical. What kind of democracy is this?
and that's the thing is, right, it's the Labour primary vote essentially is going to be so low potentially at the next election. Obviously a slight reform swing could sweep up a bunch of votes, especially in Labour heartlands like the North East and in Greater Manchester and the West Midlands. Like those are prime reform areas for scalps if there's electoral fragmentation. But also you look in London, like you look in heavily Muslim areas like Bethnal Green, places like that in Bradford, independent candidates, they're going to pop up and the Greens can start taking scalps in places like Wandsworth and Tottenham. If the Labour primary vote is capping out at like 40%, these are some winnable seats, because that's what happened to the Tories. That's what happened to the Tories, right? They didn't get a single seat, I think, with more than 40% of the vote.
Honestly, the story, Labour did really badly, and rightly so. Reform did pretty well, and understandably so. But the story for me is the genuinely, like, extinction level asteroid to the fucking dinosaurs temple of the Conservative Party. They got blown the fuck out.
Oh, it's over. Like, literally.
They lost, nearly 700 seats? What the fuck? You can't win anywhere. You're rubbish.
They were defending 18 councils. They lost every single one. Every single council they were defending, they lost.
Oh, Kemi, what's going on, gal?
I mean, what's crazy, right, is that she's protected. She's protected from a confidence vote until November or some shit, right?
Well, that's what you get for backstabbing dozens of prime ministers, one after the other. You had the opportunity and the responsibility, Tories, to use that wisely, and you fucking didn't, so they took the toy from you, and now you're fucked. You bollocksed it.
Well, that's it. It's like, Kemi's in position now, and unless she steps down voluntarily for months and months and months, the damage she could do to the Conservative Party by just being shit at campaigning could wipe them out genuinely. Like, imagine being a Tory MP and thinking, well, surely it can't get any worse than 121 seats, whatever it was at the last election, their worst result in history. And I'm just like, mate, you might not exist as a political party.
I saw a poll today that suggested they were going to win 30 odd seats. Now, again, it's a long way out. You know, there's always going to be fluctuations. But, like, do you think for a second, if an election is held in anything like the current conditions, they would get more seats than they currently have?
Well, no, exactly. You're absolutely
Not
right.
A
you know,
chance. Not a chance.
And the internal polling shows that Reform actually do win most of their support in terms of party switchers from the Tories. A lot of non-voters vote for Reform as well, but they don't get many party switchers from Labour, but they get a lot from the Tories. And what donors and party hangers-on and loyalists who are wavering needed to see was Reform UK to feel like a legitimate political force rather than a protest party. There is zero question now that they are a legitimate political force.
Yeah, oh god, yeah, absolutely.
Mayors, hundreds of councillors, like tens of councils, not just individual councillors, but overall control. I'm in Nottinghamshire County Council. That is now Reform majority, right? They are legitimately a political force. And so now the writing is on the wall for Tory donors. We'll see MPs defect too. So, like, I mean, someone pointed out to Sky News this was an extinction level event. They're expecting to lose about half their councillors. They lost more than 3/4.
Yeah, no, they're genuinely, like, I don't want to be all, Billy Big Balls about this, but I did call it. I told you so, I told you so, I told everyone so. The Tory party are dead. They're dead. Because if you are Conservative, you have no reason to ever vote for them. And they're the only people who will ever vote for them. And they're gone. They've taken 200 years of unbelievable success and pissed it down the water over, well, partly it started, I think you can say, with just world-beating political analysis of Sir David Cameron.
I don't want to do this anymore.
Deciding to kill Nigel Farage's political career by calling a referendum, which worked out superbly well for everybody. Thank you. Really, just excellent work, Dave.
And also, it's worth mentioning as well within that kind of realm is that it was obviously it was a referendum they didn't need to call, and it was a referendum in which they fermented the political environment for it to be successful by destroying a bunch of industrial heartlands that didn't really like the EU very much anyway. Like the areas with the highest propensity for voting to leave were all ones hit hardest by austerity.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, absolutely. And it was so telling, the disconnect between the London kind of commentariat and the rest of the country, that when the Sunderland result came in, they were thinking, well, that's a Labour area, that'll vote Remain, and then they were all a scandal. Oh, they voted to leave. Why would they do that? It's great. Like, motherfucker, have you ever travelled outside the M25? Have you ever left? Have you ever left Fleet Street in your life? Like, what the fuck?
Well, the areas of the country that supported Harold Wilson might not be particularly pro-Europe. Shock horror.
Yeah, the people who think that Tony Benn was all right, you know, the guy who literally said we would be selling our sovereignty, like he was making the sovereignty argument before we joined. Like, motherfucker, these people are not like your shitlib leftist. That's not the thing that they are. They can't be. They've been given nothing by that system. You offered nothing to them in terms of status quo and then said, vote for the status quo. And they told you to go fuck yourself. And they just did it again on Thursday as well.
Yeah, like, it's 100%. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's the thing. Is that... And another thing as well is that the Tories have done to screw over their voter base is that not only did they kind of slowly build together a coalition of non-expectant voters for Boris Johnson in 2019, Boris Johnson then increased the visas for international students to migrate here, which gave them 1 million net migration almost in a year, which, you know, I think this is a good policy. I like having international students. This is a way of generating foreign capital income. This is an export good, and these people are skilled migrants who contribute a lot to the economy. It was a really good policy, but all that matters in terms of the electoral narrative was number too high. Number too high, Boris wave. Well, we hate him now. We love reform.
Yes and no, in a sense, right? I get what you're talking about, right? No, I think you're generally correct. But it's not just number too high. It's that they were promised specifically by conservative parties in their manifestos to get the number down to tens of thousands. Now, that still is number too high, number too low, etc., etc. But they were promised a specific policy, which was clearly very important to conservative voters. When polled on this, immigration is always pretty high up on their list, right? And so, a matter of like core conservative principle, they were offered a specific policy and then given the exact opposite by majority conservative governments for 20 years. Like, it's no wonder they went, well, fuck you then. You promised us this thing consistently and then took the ball away from us when we went to kick it. You fucking knobs. Eventually they're going to stop doing it, you know?
Yeah, literally.
And this is the thing, that they talk about the end of two-party politics, and that is true. I think that we are at the end of two-party politics. But there was a brief blip where two-party politics made a return in the kind of 2017 to 2019 range, when you had a Boris Johnson, at least in theory, in word, offering one nation conservatism, basically. Yes. Low immigration, get out of Europe, invest in public infrastructure, because again, that shouldn't be an anti-conservative point of view. Actually making sure the country functions is one of the ways in which you can, you know, support the continued existence of the country you purport to love, you know? That shouldn't be a controversial thing, but in a post-Thatcher world, where the Conservatives have just become neoliberal arseholes, that's apparently a thing. Anyway, so you had a return of the actual conservatism that made Conservatives conservative, in the leadership of Boris Johnson. Again, he was only saying it, but at least he was offering those, you know, policies. And you had the Jam Man offering actual Labour voters actual Labour policies, basic social democracy, which is what most Labour voters want.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, both of those leaders were very popular amongst their own bases and got lots of votes. And the two-party system seemed kind of like it was back, a little bit at least.
I mean, it certainly was in 2017, right? Although it was less about... I mean, Jeremy Corbyn was giving Labour voters what they wanted and young people what they wanted. And Theresa May gave people who didn't like Jeremy Corbyn somebody to vote for. Basically, that was it. Yeah. I think a lot of Theresa May's vote coalesced around her because they wanted to do the Stop Corbyn thing, because a bunch of Liberals voted for her because they believed she was a compassionate conservative, even though she was the kind of the architect of the hostile environment.
She said she's woke, so it's fine. Yeah. Lovely. Girl boss, fucking evil. Yeah, whereas now we've got Kemi Badenoch, who, like, I mean, the reason she didn't win is clearly because she didn't even once criticise Doctor Who during the entirety of the local election campaign. A missed opportunity from Kemi, if you don't mind. It was just obsessed with culture war bullshit and being like a
Chagos!
really...
What about the Chagos Islands, Kevin?
Yeah, the Chagos Islands, like, as if a Conservative voter gives that much of a fuck about a set of islands they've never heard of. They were annoyed for 2 days because the Daily Mail told them to, and then they instantly forgot they ever existed. But yeah, they're still going on about it 6 months later. Mad. Anyway. And going on about how eating sandwiches makes you a big puff. Like, I mean, who would have thought this wouldn't cut through with your average Conservative voter? Anyway, so it's complete rubbish, right? She's just doing culture war nonsense, and she's trying to be a really awful, pale imitation of Farage. Which, like, if you wanted Coca-Cola, why would you buy Diet Coke? Like,
Exactly.
You're not going to do it.
Virgin Cola.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Well, you're going to buy Roller Cola. Like, no one wants that shit, right? And you've got the ethical case for socialism guy, who again has completely fucking lied to everybody, and is now offering you old school shithouse conservatism, which is not what Labour voters want. And now, all of a sudden, in droves, the nation has gone fuck you to both of those big parties.
They have.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought? If you sell out your core voters, they won't vote for you. Madness.
Literally, it's so true.
And the media class are like, wow, how could this possibly have happened? Like, you might as well be dressed as hot dogs while saying this, lads. Really.
That's the thing they don't get. They just don't seem to get how unpopular Keir Starmer is. It's like they can't even conceive of why Keir Starmer... Because all they think of is vibes.
Yeah.
He's sensible adults in the room. Right?
Exactly. Like, honestly, if I was to say... what would be the worst thing Keir Starmer could do in the follow-up to this election? It would be make your first trip to an arms manufacturer and talk about drones for Ukraine. Right, because that, like, no one gives a fuck about that. That's not the policy position anyone really cares about. Not that anyone's against Ukraine necessarily, but, like, people want their bins cleared and potholes filled. They don't give a fuck about, like, oh, a new fancy drone system to kill Russians. Like, no one gives a fuck about that. And then write a piece saying, we're going to deliver for you in the Times. That's his voter base, he thinks. The fucking Times readership.
With a paywall! With a fucking... He's like, I hear you, and here's my response. Please subscribe to the Times to read.
Yeah. Well, not just that, but, like, we hear you, so we're going to go harder and faster. So your takeout from this is not that you're going in the wrong direction, but you think people like what you're doing, but want you to do it faster.
Actually, wasn't the Labour MP was quoted as saying is like, well, no, the problem is that we are doing what we said we want to do, and people fucking hate it.
Yeah. Look, and not just that, but look, the old joke of, like, dig up, stupid. They haven't even tried that. They're just going, no, let's continue to dig downwards, but continue to dig downwards faster and harder.
Just literally. And what's the response, right? The response immediately, as soon as the next day after a bruising local election set of results, what's Keir Starmer's big fucking gambit? We're going to fold the Department for Culture, Media and Sport into another department, and we're going to fire Bridget Phillipson, somebody who works in a department that has fucking nothing to do with local government. Yeah, because I'm sure the DCMS, right, was the department that most kind of came up on the doorstep of the local election, surely.
Yeah, honestly, exactly. The big issue was the policy towards leisure centres or something. Yeah, brilliant.
The towns were where they lost. They lost in, like, all of, like, the town areas, and that's literally the sector of society that Lisa Nandy, of all people, cares about the most. What the fuck are you doing? This makes no sense.
He's lucky the cities weren't voting, because he'd have got fucking obliterated. But Birmingham would have not voted for him at all. One of the heartlands would have been absolutely gone for him. Now, okay, it's a bit of a local thing, but, like, Manchester and Liverpool would also have not been very happy with him. You know?
I mean, they lost a council by-election in fucking Helen Hayes' backyard to the Greens.
In where, sorry?
In Helen Hayes' backyard,
okay.
like a 20-point swing or something. It was pretty wild.
Yeah.
No, next set of London elections could be pretty bad for the Labour Party.
Yeah, if they're not even winning inside the M25, I mean, surely I would say they've got to, get the message, but I don't think they're capable of getting the message, because it's not about a message for them, it's about ideology. This isn't something they've been forced into doing, they are just right-wing wankers.
I mean,
Simple.
I think thing is, it's. I mean, whilst they are right wing, I don't think it's an ideology that they have because obviously Keir Starmer has no ideology. It's them thinking that this is what grown-ups do, them thinking what they think sensible politics looks like. It's entirely kind of a performative kind of vice signal going, oh, we have to say and do these things to look like legitimate politicians because that's all they know. They don't know what they're talking about or what they're doing. It's why they hired consultancies like PricewaterhouseCoopers and Deloitte to help them govern in their stead because they spent 5 years attacking the left internally because that's all they know. And once they get into government, they're just like, well, you know, it's a fucking mess, isn't it? And just let's get PricewaterhouseCoopers to do it because they don't believe what they're doing. So their prescription is go to a consultancy, say, do a thing that makes us this thing makes us look sensible. Go out and do this, and then it fucks up because, of course, no one likes it.
Yeah. It's such a perfect analogy or such a perfect example of Starmer's complete lack of any plan or guidance or inventiveness or imagination. His big sort of gambit on election eve, his big policy announcement was taxing milkshakes.
Again, a policy I think I support. I think
it's not
fine.
bad policy, but like it's the most tinkering at the edges, nothing policy, really.
Yeah, like people can't like feed their kids, and they're just like, well, maybe if we extended the sugar tax to bottled milkshakes, but not of course milk drinks that you buy prepared by a barista. No, not those. Specifically bottled ones. That's expensive. That's the real gambit.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's so perfect. There's no plan. He's just sort of inventing. What's the thing that makes us sound like we're doing government? not let's do government. What makes it look like we're doing government?
That's it. It's all performative.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is interesting. They're acting a lot like they think the Tories act, which is being constantly in campaign mode. Because the Tories are and always have been constantly in campaign mode. What's funny is that in the last kind of Parliament, the Tories thought that they could do this by plastering stop the boats all over all of their campaign material, everything that they were doing, and then go, well, we can't win on the economy because we fucked the economy, let's fight on immigration. And then they forgot that they were the ones who were in charge when all of the immigration that happened that people didn't like was. So they got it into the public psyche that stopping the boats was the main issue and then didn't stop them and then wondered why they got fucking destroyed at the election and at these locals, you know?
Yeah, amazing shit. Yes, I am suggesting that Morgan McSweeney isn't the political genius he's been sold to us as. Yes, that is.
It's like as the Homer Simpson running around on the floor meme.
Literally. Okay, someone make that meme happen.
Mr.
Yeah. Thank you, Igloo BC, for resubscribing. We're on a hype train, but it went. I didn't even notice. Sorry, I was enjoying our conversation. Thank you, Specs Bean Farmer, for becoming a member on the YouTube. On the YouTubes. Katie says, "Man frog get to fuck." Okay. And Dingus Van Sant, why is Kev with some bears in this photograph? Well, you can't see that, but that's the meme that's on my screen right now. Okay, shall we get to some award-winning journalism?
Yes. Is there no Curtis tonight?
No, he got very drunk last night and he's hungover.
Okay, fair enough.
So, that's... Like, I think he might have come into my chat during the drinking stage of that, and his liver was writing checks that his hungover mind could not cash.
Fair enough. What was I going to say? Something. Oh yeah, that's a good point from Edward in chat. You have to pay extra tax on the milkshake you throw all over Nigel Farage. Clearly, this was a policy done specifically to spite Victoria Thomas Bowen specifically.
Well, Edward, you have stolen my joke. I'll put that up. I'll put something like, was it to placate Nigel Farage personally or something?
Literally, Victoria Thomas Bowen tweeted about it. It's very funny.
Of course, yeah. Absolute queen, yeah. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to start the program going? I need to go get a drink. 1 sec.
Okay. Well, I will just say, look at these 4 absolute ghouls. They would happily eat your fucking family.
A new world. Labour and the Conservatives were both hit hard by Nigel Farage's reform. How will they answer it? Zia Youssef, the chair of Reform's, here for the first time. So is the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, and Labour's Health Secretary, Wes Streeting. Lib Dem leader Sir Ed Davey joins us from Dorset, and 5 out of 5. The Greens' Adrian Ramsey will be with us too.
Oh, for fuck's sake, the one Green I despise. Brilliant.
We'll put your thoughts to our 5 politicians this morning.
Fucking hell,
after all
like,
that
it's
talk,
just
there-
wall-to-wall wankers. Oh, and Jeff Goldblum, okay. I don't mind Jeff Goldblum.
It's time for a bit of music. Movie star Jeff Goldblum's side hustle.
I was a bad student, I didn't, I had some facility, but I didn't want to practice, and he would know that I didn't practice. But then he gave me a sheet of music after I did, Churney and different things. He gave me...
Honestly, Independence Day, greatest shit movie ever. I love it. It's the dumbest movie.
this piece of music. I just liked it.
And Queen of the Royal Watchers, Tina Brown, is here. We'll be talking to her about Prince Harry's emotional interview, along with stalwarts of the Labour movement, Christina McAnee, boss of the union Unison, and watching her old party, former Conservative Cabinet Minister Justine Greening.
Oh my God, Justine Greening's alive. Oh no.
And morning. Let's start, as we always do, by what's making the headlines.
I'll probably sound mental to the people who can't hear those noise alerts on Helena's stream. Thank you, Alex. Toast to the landscape. Sorry, what? Toast to the hellscape, get a new cat. Toast? I don't know what that means, but okay. Thank you.
Today, the Sunday Times splashes with comments from the Chair of Reform, who's with us today, saying that the young need moral education. The Independent
Whoa. That did not say that. Hang on, we'll go back. Interesting editorialising here.
And morning. Let's start, as we always do, by what's making the headlines today. The Sunday Times
Note, the headline reads, Reform. Young need a moral re-education. He didn't say moral education. He said re-education. Imagine if the Jam Man had said anything about re-education. It would have been, oh, he's just like Mao. He's a evil, a thought crime, thought police. But no. Apparently when Reform do it, it's absolutely fine. Fucking hell.
Flashes with comments from the Chair of Reform.
Sorry, just come back. What's the title of that? What's that about? Young need a moral re-education. What the fuck does he mean?
I don't know, but I just think it's interesting the way that it's reworded by Laura Koonsberg.
Saying that the young need moral education.
Because he didn't say that, did he? He said re-education, which is a rather different tone, shall we say.
Does he mean that they need to be educated out of woke?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's it's reform. That's all I ever mean. Yeah.
Well, it is funny to me just how many people's like, yeah, no, I just voted because of woke. Not on policy? No, just because of woke.
Well, because they're being told by the Daily Mail that woke is the biggest evil in the world. Because billionaires are not to be criticised ever.
Did you see that person on Twitter describe Bridget Phillipson as a Marxist?
Of course they did. My favourite one ever, Peter Sweden describing Theresa May as an authoritarian Marxist.
I love it. Honestly, at this point, you might as well just have Jeremy Corbyn as leader forever. Because if they're going to call you Marxists anyway...
Yeah, exactly.
Quotes none other than John Curtis. We'll hear from him in a bit on Labour's
How is he
woes.
still alive?
The Sunday Telegraph says Badenoch will not chase Farage to the right.
Because she already has. To chase would suggest the current tense. Yeah.
He was calling for mass deportations the other day. She's not chasing Farage to the right. She is to his right on this issue. Nigel Farage ruled out mass deportations.
Exactly. He's just got, an elected mayor that now wants a concentration camp of tents for migrants, which,
Well, didn't she specifically use the term concentration camp?
No, but she said that it should be in a small and limited area.
So concentrated.
So, look, a camp of tents that's concentrated to people in a small area. I'll let that speak for itself.
I don't know what you could possibly call such a thing.
Yeah.
We'll ask her later. The Mail on Sunday, though, leads on the royal rift, and the Sunday Mirror
Of course
looks
it
ahead to
did.
the
The Daily Mail's so shit. As if that's the fucking news story. Dad and son don't speak very often on the phone. Is the news story there?
No, to tell you what is the news story. The news story is that Brianna Wu was in Tel Aviv when that Houthi missile hit Ben Gurion Airport, and she thought the first thing I'm going to do is film a TikTok.
Well, that's Zionism for you, yeah.
Literally, I'm on my way to the bomb shelter because the Houthis have hit us with a missile. I'm like, yeah, the first thing I would do would be to run, actually, not indeed open the TikTok app.
Well, that's how you know that they're not actually in any danger. 'Cause the amount of times they film themselves running to, well, just indoors. It could be a chamber, it could be just a house or something. Who knows? Yeah, they're not serious people, are they?
I mean, Brenna was certainly not, because she's only going to Tel Aviv to literally to make content for socials. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, she's not actually there because she cares at all.
No. But I just want to say, cautious support to the Houthis on that one. Brianna Wu is a bad person.
Literally just like I was wondering when was it Douglas Murray went to broadcast for Talk TV from the Israel-Gaza border, and I was like, oh my god, the Al-Qassam brigades have the chance to do the funniest thing.
Honestly, your support in the UK would go through the roof. It wouldn't just be, was it Hull or what was the city that they, Doncaster. It wouldn't just be Doncaster anymore. You'd get support across the board. Because that guy's a fucking bellend.
Day celebrations later in the week. And here at the BBC, we're reporting...
Did you see that Trump wants to rename it Victory for America Day?
It's honestly...
He's a fucking lunatic.
Genuine, it's just so sad that he has power.
Yeah.
If he was just a mad fucking Alex Jones InfoWars online ranter, incredible. Meme central, he'd be the funniest person on the internet.
And he'll just say anything like, oh, we lost more people than anyone. What? The Soviets lost more than all the other allies combined. What are you talking about?
I think it's almost more than like the rest of the European armies on both sides combined, right? Something.
Near
The numbers are genuinely
26
crazy.
million.
Yeah.
They lost one. I think it was something ridiculous, like they lost one every 14 seconds for 4 years. There you go. Lovely stuff.
Sunday evening.
Moving story.
Yeah, exactly.
Of 8 men who've been arrested today in a counter-terror plot investigation. So, a huge...
I didn't realise NECAP had 8 members. What? When did that happen?
Huge few days of news, a really big change in the political environment. Justine, watching on, do you think this is a seismic shift, as Nigel Farage claims, or is it just a moment of a bubble?
I think it is a big shift, actually. I certainly think for this version of the Conservative Party, that's now finished. And I think if it's to have any future, it will have to substantially reinvent itself. I don't see a way back.
Wow, you think the Tories are finished if they carry on this trajectory?
I genuinely didn't expect Justine Greening to come up with the correct answer to anything. And yet she did. Fair play. That's actually just true. Yeah.
Version of the Conservative Party that we've seen over the best part of a decade that has been trying to out-reform. I think that experiment is demonstrably failed and the party has reached a literal dead end.
Wow. Christina, you've part of the Labour movement, have watched the Labour Party
What's interesting?
for a long time.
What's interesting is Justine Greening was one of the people who lost their seat because of Jeremy Corbyn.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's quite funny. She was a shock person who lost her seat in 2017, wasn't it? Right?
Possibly. I can't remember. It's been a while.
Yeah,
now,
she was Battersea, wasn't it? Battersea. And
I have no idea. Yeah.
Battersea constituency. Because it was the blind woman who took her seat, right? Battersea, 2020.
Don't know.
Oh no, that was a different. That was a shock one, but it wasn't her seat.
Okay. Battersea and Power Station.
This was a grisly set of results for a party that just in July got a whopping majority. What are they getting wrong?
Oh no, she stood down in
I think this is
2019.
as people have said, it's a wake-up call for the party and time for a reset. And just talking in sound bites and rhetoric won't work anymore. People expect more from a...
And he's heard you, and he's going to go faster and harder for the reform that we need to build the pathway to change to build, to restore the foundations.
Of the milestone of the working group.
Exactly, but he doesn't like sound bites. He's not going to do sound bites, no.
The Labour Party, especially those who voted for them, obviously, and they're not getting it at the moment, and they need to feel better about the world and about their own lives, and sadly that's not been delivered so far.
So what would a reset look like for you?
So for me, a reset would look like, you know, we keep being told the world has changed. You know, I've heard senior politicians say this all the time. So they need to look at changing some of the policies that they so far have set for themselves. And one of the big ones for me would be relaxing the tight fiscal rules that they've set. That would give them a bit more flexibility in terms of where they could spend money.
Tina, you spend most of your time in the States today, and we've talked to you before about Donald Trump.
True,
When
but
you
so
look at
does
what's happening with
Nigel Farage, and he's in Parliament, so it's fine.
Farage, do you think there's a parallel there?
There are similarities, but there's also...
Like, did you see Farage going, oh, work from home, think again? Motherfucker, you don't even work from this continent. What are you talking about?
I made the point on the stream the other day, like, his voter base is full of, like, people in their 50s who got over-promoted into, like, work-from-home mouse-clicky jobs in the 1990s, and then in the pandemic moved out to the country to be able to use their ill-gotten gains of property wealth from the 90s to be able to buy a really nice house and then work their same mouse-clicky sinecure job from home. This is his voter base, for work-from-home people.
Yeah, and then brilliant. Like, they're just such clowns, these fucking Reform people. I don't want to do this anymore! The newly elected mayor of wherever the fuck she's been elected, who cares? Andrea Jenkins.
Brently, Lincolnshire.
Yeah. Vows to sack the council's diversity officers. Small problem with that, as a plan. That council doesn't have any fucking diversity officers.
Well, it's because there's no such thing as DEI in the UK.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not a thing.
It's not a thing. What's interesting as well is Lewis Aaron, who is excellent, you should follow him on TikTok if you don't already, was pointing this out, was that he's worked in equalities offices and things like that. And the thing that they most do, in fact, people have this opinion that it's only there because of ethnic or gender or sexuality minorities. And whilst they have a role in ensuring that they don't discriminate, the biggest group who get equitable treatment because of equalities offices are the poor. It's poor and people. It's class, because that is the biggest disparity in British society, is along class lines, right? And so to deal with that disparity, you need to have things like equality officers to ensure that there isn't undue unequal treatment because of prejudice against people from working class backgrounds. That's everywhere in British society, especially in British politics. And so I said, loads of people who are from these industrial heartlands, who have got working class backgrounds, voting for people like Reform, they're taking away these things like equality officers who are specifically there to ensure that they are treated fairly.
Yeah. Well, they're voting against their own best interests, which is, of course, is obvious.
The thing is, it's the perception that it's all about race or whatever, when that's just fundamentally not the case in how these offices work.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's just funny. Like, it's such a perfect description of modern conservatism that they just make up a problem to get mad at and then elect people to solve the problem that wasn't there in the first place.
Well, let's because again, it's not even really conservatism anymore. It's reactionary. It's reactionary.
Yeah.
It's just being reactionary. That's all it is, right?
Rightoid shitheads, whatever.
Yeah.
Thank you, Katie, who says, Kev, is Greening a one-nationer? I think she's more of a one-nationer from what I recall, although she hasn't been in Parliament for a bit. But again, as with all of these motherfuckers, they served in neoliberal cabinets, so like they're a part of the problem. If you just knuckle under and pretend, and let's just say I'm not talking exclusively just to the current Deputy Prime Minister, if you just knuckle under and pretend that they're not doing the evil shit, and that you get one or two vaguely small, tiny little concessions, you're still part of the mountain of shit that's been piled on people.
Yep. 100%.
So a lot of differences. Obviously, Farage, like Trump, vivid personality, immigration, DEI, these are the things that it's very easy to say. I think the difference really now is we've now had 100 days of Trump,
And we know that he's the king of chaos. And we know that all the jingoistic phrases and phrases like waste, fraud and abuse sound great. When you start finding that waste, fraud and abuse means that everybody's getting laid off in all these agencies, etc., across America, it doesn't feel so good anymore. And he's got the worst poll ratings.
True, but what we need to do is rename the North Sea to the British Sea.
The Churchill Sea.
Fuck yes.
No, hang on, no, they hate the ECHR. Hang on, no, the Mosley Sea.
Okay.
I mean, like genuinely, who's left? Who's left in British history that anyone who votes for Reform UK can claim some kind of historic allegiance to? Who's left?
Lord
All of the
Horval?
main. How do you
Technically, he was Irish, I guess. But
yeah,
anyway.
I mean, I guess so many of them just all they care about is imperial nostalgia. Like you have to go back to the colonial era.
Clive of India. Some evil shit like that. Yeah.
Powell, Enoch Powell, I guess, is probably the biggest kind of ideological historic kind of bedfellow.
And it's so annoying because he's got an amazing backstory, Enoch Powell. Right? He was self-taught and became a professor of classics at like Melbourne University in Australia at the age of 25. Right?
Wow.
It's like the most mental like story. You think, oh, he's really intelligent. Then, oh, it just turns out he's also amazingly fucking racist as well, and makes shit up. But literally in the Rivers of Blood speech, which he never actually says the phrase "Rivers of Blood" again, and it's another one of those. He literally lied and said that there was a school in his constituency that had not a single white kid in it. Wasn't true. Because the
of course they never
records were kept of that.
It's the same. It's always the lies constantly from the right, deliberately fabricated to scare people. Yeah. It's just like the 40 beheaded babies. It's just like the Trojan horse plot. Remember that, chat? Remember when there was this made-up letter that Michael Gove knew was made up and decided to talk about anyway that said there was a Muslim plot to take over schools? Just all nonsense. All nonsense, you know?
Yeah. Yes, Cecil Rhodes they'd go with, definitely. Yeah. Basically, if they killed enough brown people, we'll name a sea after them, and that's nationalism now. That's patriotic.
Of any president at 100 days in 80 years, which is quite extraordinary. So there is time to make it up.
Okay, well, we'll see, because we'll talk to 5 different political parties today on the show, so it's going to be a busy
I've not just read the speech, as old frogs will know. We went through it live. Not live, we didn't travel back to 1974.
You fired up your flux capacitor.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we popped in the TARDIS and we fucked off back to 1974 Wolverhampton, and there was a recording he did of this because it wasn't recorded live. He recorded it at the BBC, and it was broadcast like it was a big deal because he got sacked from the cabinet for it. You know, and so yeah, we listened to it and reacted. We did React Andy content to the breaking news from fucking 4 decades ago. Yeah, it's awful. It's just racist anecdotes. Yeah, nonsense.
With Reform triumphant, Labour and the Tories both bruised, and the Greens and the Lib Dems reasonably pleased with themselves. But what does the nation's favourite...
On the point of the Greens, as you are a spokesperson, a good night, an okay night, but not a great night.
I mean, what's interesting is that we were never going to win a huge amount because a lot of these places was northern Midlands rural areas. There was like one London by-election that we did win, to be fair, and our numbers of council seats did go up.
Yep.
But the big bruising that we got was coming third in the West of England combined authority mayoral election. Third, to be fair, by about 5 percentage points. It was 25, 22, 20 of the top 3, so it was pretty close all round with lots of fragmentation. But the two things was that we went down in voting percentage, which could potentially be because of people voting Labour to stop Aaron Banks because they didn't want to split the vote, and lefties like to tactically vote. But in a time when Labour are hated, and the previous mayor had to step down due to accusations of sexual impropriety, you should be doing better than what we did, and that was frustrating. And we didn't even win in Bristol. We came second in Bristol by like 2,000 votes, right?
That's not good. Yeah.
I mean, maybe
you've got one of your MPs there. Like that needs to be a kind of home field as such.
I mean, to be fair, the percentage in terms of Bristol, if you take all the constituencies at the election in Bristol, we actually only got like 20% odd behind Labour's kind of aggregate 40%, 45%. So getting almost the same as them in terms of the mayoral election, that's at least a good starting point to try and close those 20-point gaps in like the other ones we didn't win. Well,
that's what I mean. It's an okay night, but not a great night. Like the big breakthroughs that, like, I mean, I don't know. You shouldn't judge yourself just by what other parties did, but the fact that Farage was able to make that breakthrough in a way that the Greens just weren't, says something. I think.
Yeah, no, you're right. There is plenty to learn. There is plenty more to do, and it shows that a change of strategy is necessary. But I think that there are Owen Jones was saying the Greens are shit. They don't know what they're doing, and Labour insiders were saying we were shit as well. And I think that there is criticism that's warranted. But to say that it was a failure is untrue, because we did okay. We absolutely did okay, and we did do better than
also, Labour insiders saying that, like, motherfucker, do you own a mirror? Chill. With criticism of the other parties of being shit. Just saying.
Yeah.
So everyone go and follow some random geek who is lurking and awesome. And just to clear up a historical thing here. He wasn't sacked technically from the cabinet for racism. It's because in that speech he spoke out against current sitting government policy, which was immigration isn't terrible in some situations, maybe a bit. And he was like, no, it is always bad in all situations. Except, of course, look, he was literally one of the people that fucking started the Windrush thing. It's really strange. He's such a strange guy. Honest to God. Really weird fucker.
What's interesting as well is that in terms of rhetoric on migration, like, there are plenty of the Tories who are far to the right of Nigel Farage. Like, Farage, during the election campaign, specifically said, actually, immigration's basically always benefited the UK. It's just since Blair we've had quote-unquote mass migration.
Yeah, well, because he has to tone it down. That's the thing. The Tory party are trying to tack right to chase voters bleeding away. And Farage is thinking, well, I've got that vote sewn up. I can tack left a little bit, or at least try and seem a bit more soft and liberal, so that people who are centrists might think, well, he doesn't seem like a fascist. Maybe I'll give him a chance,
I mean, I think that's, again, one of the reasons why he was very happy to oust Rupert Lowe, because that guy was fucking insane.
Yeah, exactly. Insane. Well, I mean, having talked him down at the start, Cameron was right. Farage's coalition back in the day was just fucking loonies and nutcases. And in order to become electable, he does have to shed that to a degree.
I agree, yeah.
So getting rid of dickheads like Rupert Lowe, whilst it's not necessarily a clause 4 moment or anything like that, it does show people that he can be sensible adults in the room, which unfortunately is what the Daily Mail and people like that want. You've got to be sensible.
I mean, it felt like a real kind of, I mean, not to say that these people are on the same level, because clearly they aren't, right, in terms of the levels which that they are a headbanger, but it really felt like a Chris Williamson moment, right?
A little bit, yeah.
When during like the anti-Semitism crisis, quote unquote, within Labour, like there was a big deal that they got rid of somebody who had this perception of being anti-Semitic, right? Now, I think that at the time Chris Williamson was being anti-Semitic at all. In fact, I think the things that he said that were closest to straying into anti-Semitic territory were all after he'd been removed. Like, at the time, he'd said nothing at all, with my mind, that was out of pocket. But he was seen as the person that they were going to have as the fall guy to try and nix these criticisms in the bud, in the same way that Nigel Farage was getting criticisms because of what happened during the riots. So you take one of your MPs who not only is a massive headbanger, but who also has his own dreams of usurping you as leader, and because backed by Elon Musk, right? There's like, no, this is where it ends, right? This is where we have to, put this on the chopping block and nip this in the bud to try and make us look like we're not full of nutcases.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's about sending a message, as well as getting rid of someone who might be a threat, I guess, as well at some point in the future, maybe.
Number cruncher, Professor Sir John Curtis, make of it all. As ever, we've given him just a minute.
If you can survive a minute.
Reform won most votes, most seats and most councils by a country mile. Never before has a party other than the Conservatives and Labour topped the local polls.
Well, hang on a minute.
Have they bottomed them, though?
Tories 15%. Jesus, we almost overtook them in the Greens.
Yeah, 11% to 50, literally almost margin of error territory.
And again, they were defending more than double the seats of anybody else.
Honestly, that's fucking.
Yeah.
Oh, the Tories are dead. They're just fucking dead. And I'm going to enjoy watching them bleed out.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, thank you, Vicky, for mentioning that it was super chat. Thank you, Optimistic Nihilist, for the £10. Hello, I've jumped ship from Labour to Green a few months ago, and yes, I feel stupid for ever having believed Starmer and his crew of corporate sellouts not looking back just because they won't bring change. Well, I appreciate the £10 super chat, and I appreciate your honesty. You don't have to feel having to feel stupid because loads of people were conned. Cog over on the Turn Left channel, which you should subscribe to as well, also backed Starmer because he believed the promise of being Corbynism with a kind of in a suit, right? Which of course was a pack of lies, which you all know now. But it's far easier to double down rather than admit that you'd been conned, you know. And it's fine to admit that.
Yeah, it's interesting watching the Melters, Tansky and the like going, oh, the fucking Reform voters are just thick. Motherfucker, you voted for the ethical case for socialism and got Thatcher.
Literally,
you're not in that position to make that accusation of anyone.
Have you seen Super Tansky now pretending that she always hated Starmer? So fucking funny to me.
Oh god, well she's put out a video, I haven't seen it yet, but she's apparently roasting him on YouTube, which could be quite funny.
Party put in what was by far its worst local election performance ever. It lost 45% of its seats to Reform. Labour hoped to make gains, profiting from the Conservative fallback. Instead, its vote fell back more heavily than that of any previous newly elected government.
Oh, chat! Is that a tragic turn of events? Is that winning? Is that winning?
Kevin, Morgan McSweeney is the Whisperer. He's the Red Wall Whisperer. That would never happen.
No. Yeah, these numbers must be wrong. Yeah.
Reform's share of the vote was just as high in previously Labour-held wards as it was in Conservative ones. In contrast, Liberal Democrats and the Greens managed to fend off Reform's challenge in their wards. The Liberal Democrats did little more than hold their share of the vote, but the fall in Conservative support enabled them to make gains where they were the Conservative.
You know what the Greens didn't do that they should have done? Hobby horsing.
True, there should have been hobby horsing. That's absolutely right. You know, well, here's a question, Kev. Here's a question: how long do you think it's going to be before, in a Westminster voting intention poll, the Tories are behind the Lib Dems?
In terms of share of the vote. Because I've seen them, but I've definitely seen them behind them in terms of number of seats.
Oh yes, in seats, yeah, because of targeting, yeah. But in terms of share of the vote, how long do you think it's going to take?
Christmas?
Because it's going to be sometime this year, I think. Because at the end of the day, people don't want to vote for a protest party in Reform, which are perceived to not be legitimate, except they obviously are legitimate now because of their win in the local elections.
Yeah.
So Reform curious Tory holdouts, they're gone. Right, they're gone. And
the one, I mean, to use, it's essentially like the Labour gobshites argument of you shouldn't vote for the Greens or the Lib Dems because you let the Tories in.
Yeah.
The argument from the Tories of you shouldn't vote Reform because you let Labour in has now been flipped because Reform are the Conservative party. So if you vote Conservative, you let Starmer back in. They don't even have that to hold over their voters anymore. They've got nothing. They're literally they're trying to bluff, and they don't even have cards in their fucking hand. Like they've nothing. They've got nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And the thing is now is that they all know it. They know that this is the case, right? So the answer is to, of course, chase Lib Dem voters, but they won't do that because that would involve not being massive bigots.
Yeah, they'd have to pretend not to be complete wankers, and that's the one principle they will not give up.
His principal challenger.
Well, let's speak to one of the victors. The chair of Reform UK, Zia Youssef, is here for the first time. Welcome to the studio. We can show people also some pictures of you pacing up and down at the Runcorn by-election, those nervous few hours when it just did come down to 6 votes. Let's start, though, with one of the big promises you've made.
Down to 6 votes. Don't let anyone tell you your vote doesn't matter. 6 fucking votes. 6. You can fit the majority in that fucking seat into a cab.
Honestly, I mean, it's. I think it's what's funny is that loads of people are in talk about it, going, "Oh, I can't believe Green voters allowed Reform to win by not voting Labour." Wow, and I'm just like the Ian Duncan Smiths, the parody group, posted me sowing, haha, we're shaking off the fleas. Me reaping, shit, we lost by 6 fleas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you didn't want us in the party, did you? Oh,
The door was open.
yeah, the door was open. You can leave. And then
We've
when people leave, why did they leave? Fuck
So
off, lads. Yeah, I'm not going to enjoy Nigel Farage becoming Prime Minister, obviously, but I am going to enjoy you wankers losing. I really am. Kev, do you think proportional representation would help or hurt Reform UK? Well, up until recently, it would have helped them. But now that they're the biggest party in terms of share of vote, it probably would hurt them because they'd get fewer votes, fewer seats potentially at the next election. And that's unfortunately the reason why we will never have proportional representation, because the party who would need to enforce it is the party that just benefited from not having it.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, the only way you can get it is by forcing there to have to be a coalition government that would be formed upon the premise of implementing electoral reform.
Not the promise of eviscerating the poor for a 5p bag tax and a vote you can't win.
Literally, it would have to be without a referendum. And I don't. I think that the idea that electoral reform would require a referendum is silly, but I think most people would support it now anyway.
I think so, because like if we're gonna have this system. Like, the one advantage of the first past the post system, it's undemocratic as fuck, of course, but the one advantage you have is that it leads generally to strong and stable government, to quote a former Prime Minister who was not strong or stable. Whereas if you're going to have this split system where you're going to have 3, 4, 5-way splits across the country, this system is set up fundamentally in the worst way possible. Like, it's a fucking catastrophe. What you would need is a genuinely proportional system, or some kind of proportional system, alternative vote or ranked choice or something, which would force them to have to form coalitions every time. Which you would have to do anyway, because there's no one can, in this situation, in a genuine 3, 4, 5-way split, you cannot get a majority. So they're going to have to form coalitions. So set up a system that allows for that properly. And is more democratic.
I mean, like, it's just, like, I can understand if you have, like, 35-30, at least under first past the post, you get some kind of, at least you can see that it's close to a sort of consensus. But when you're on, 25, 23, 20, there is absolutely there is zero legitimacy to a majority government on any of those numbers at all.
Yeah, they're mad shit. Thank you, My Left Eye, for raiding in on the YouTubes. Everyone go follow My Left Eye, who is cool. And where are we? Someone said something, and I've totally forgotten what it was. Oh yeah, thank you, NYC guy with bits. Katie says, Kevin Helena, tips on canvassing, please. I mean, tips on canvassing. I don't know. I try to avoid the electorate. I don't like them. Like, I don't want to go and speak to them. I don't like them. So, but like, I get that other people can and should do that.
Also, thank you, Ruth Guthrie, for the £5. Just a reminder, Mark Carney stated that Scotland was worth upwards of £1 trillion during our 2024 campaign. What's England worth? Very interesting point. Also, someone in my comment section, just looking through my comments, someone in the comment section was saying, keeps talking about how Nigel Farage wants to privatise the NHS because that's how we are going to win, and how Brexit won because you kept talking down. I'm like, I'm just fucking reporting the shit that he said in front of you. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, also, he definitely does want to do that. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous for the Labour Party's sake, because they are literally privatising it as we speak. Like, they're probably doing it slower than Farage would, but yeah.
When he literally said on camera,
Also,
I don't want it funded. I want you to pay for insurance. I want you to have insurance rather than it being paid for by general taxation. It was the words that came out of his mouth, and he's happy to admit it. And then these reform voters go, keep talking like this. Reform will only get stronger. And I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
No, reform got stronger because of the neoliberal economics, which has fucking devastated huge swathes of the country. It's nothing to do with NHS privatisation. What are you talking about? You'd realise that you're just being very, very silly when you say these things, right? Like, we've heard this from right wingers all the time. Just be nice to us and give us everything we want, and that's how you'll defeat us. Like, you realise we're not fucking six. We can see through that very obvious piece of rhetorical nonsense, yeah? But by all means, carry on. I don't really care. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
Cut waste in the councils that you now control. How much money do you think you're going to save by cutting equality, diversity and inclusion policies? You've talked a lot about that in the campaign. How much money do you think you'll save?
Well, Laura, this was a historic set of results. I think that's the first thing to say. It was a turquoise tidal wave. I think it's going to be looked back on.
You've got 500 fucking seats, mate. Chill. The Labour Party have still got like 4,000. Like, let's not a tidal wave. It's not. Let's keep it in perspective, shall we?
And it's also worth mentioning as well that because of the nature of the councils that were up for election, there is a distortion as to the kind of people who voted, and the fact that they're voting Reform in large numbers is a symptom of that, right? Yeah. If it was London, if it was London councils just on their own, like Reform would be winning nothing, you know?
Yeah. Again, that's why I did the joke at the start about Nigel Farage being awarded to becoming king or whatever. Like, they're crowning him, and you think, like, you've got 5 MPs. No, you've got 4 MPs now, isn't it? Because 4 or 5, however many it is, it depends. And you've got a few, and they are. This is historic results, but let's keep it in perspective, right? You've got 600, 500 councillors. You've run a few councils, and you haven't even started actually running those yet. And there are huge swathes of the country that you have no representation in. So let's keep it in perspective. This is not some like takeover at this point. It will be if the fucking 2 main parties continue to completely ignore their base will leave them for other parties, including the Reform Party. But right now, Farage is still the leader of a fucking tiny party. That he theoretically has a lot of votes, but theoretically and actually are 2 different things.
Yeah, so this is what's going to be like the fulcrum on which this is going to be based moving forward, is how much of this can they turn into the creation of a real party infrastructure to fight another election, you know? Canvassers, donors, setting up all of the internal things, you know?
And how much of it is literally just Nigel Farage personality cult? Like, when he steps down, and he's not a young man, he's going to step down at some point in the not too distant future, who replaces him? Fucking 30p Lee?
Looking forward to Prime Minister Darren Grimes.
Oh yeah, Crafty Wank got elected. Fucking hell. Imagine that. Imagine if he was in a councillor in Luke Akehurst's seat, right? Imagine if your councillor was Crafty Wank and your fucking MP was Akehurst. I'd move. I would actually just move.
Declare independence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my back garden is now a fucking independent country. Fuck off.
As the most important set of local election results in British history. We won 32% of the vote share, 40% of the seats. We've taken control of 10 councils, 2 mayorships. And look, we're going to work really hard for those constituents.
I would say mayoralties, but okay.
Because we have a clear mandate. And in terms of things like wasteful spending, look, the first thing to say is our assessment of how much can be saved is based entirely on trying to assess these freedom of information requests. And there's a limit to what you can do at that, candidly. What I will say is that even within those FOIs, we can see that Lancashire County Council saw fit to spend £500,000 on ergonomic chairs for its staff.
Yes, to stop them getting hurt and stop the sick days that would cost more than £500,000. Yeah, that's actually just a wise investment, potentially. Now, I don't know if it worked out, but the idea that that's some woke thing... No, sick days cost councils fucking fortune. Because you have to pay the sick pay for the person and then hire someone else, often at short-term exorbitant costs for to job agencies, to fill that gap. It costs a lot more than £500,000. So if you if you save £1 million in sick days by spending £500,000 on chairs, you've saved £500,000. Again, it's the Elon Musk thing. You can't just look at the money not spent as money saved, because that's not how it works.
Literally, it's identical to everything that happened under David Cameron. The exact same thing. It's like, oh well, we don't need to spend this money now because that means we're fixing the roof while the sun is shining. I'm like, no, you're just fucking allowing the roof to cave in further until the inevitable tidal wave comes.
Yeah.
Northamptonshire County Council spent £1.1 million handing out free vapes. Look, what people want at a local...
I want to know what that story is, because I doubt that's true.
Right, let me bring this to find this. On point one,
Northampton Council vapes. 1.1 million for free vape. Is this... Okay, the only way I can think this is remotely true, and I'll hazard a guess, because I don't know. Is this some sort of campaign to stop the locals from smoking by getting them onto the potentially safer vaping?
I don't think so.
I don't know. That's the only reason I can think. Because that sounds like some made-up, like, bendy bananas thing or something.
The AI thing, on the AI prompt on Google, is saying Northamptonshire Council and West offer free vaping products as part of their stop smoking services.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So it's not they were giving out free vapes, like, as what, to encourage vapes. It's to get people off smoking cigarettes, which is worse.
It's a 12-week thing when you, alongside it, you also get behavioural support, either in person or over the phone. To participate, residents can contact their local stop smoking services and mainly provide proof of age, free cigarette products.
So it's literally to stop people getting cancer.
We don't know. It's going to be much easier. Then again, of course, they want you the smoke. They want people to pay insurance for the NHS. So,
right, but regardless of whether they're paying for insurance or whatever, you still have limited capacity in oncology departments. Like it's still better for the overall health and productivity of the country if fewer people are getting cancer. Like, that's just a good thing to try and do. Now, I'm not going to necessarily assess whether giving out the vapes is the best way of doing it or whether there's a more financially efficient way of doing that. But, like, that's what that is. That's not wokeness. That's trying to stop people getting cancer-ness.
Also, I'd like to point out, Northamptonshire County Council has a total budget of £959.6 million.
And they spent one of those 959 million.
0.1% of the budget he saved.
to stop people getting cancer. Okay, yeah, that seems like a wise investment then, actually, to be honest. Like, so far, his savings aren't savings. Brilliant.
Local level is not the world. What they want is their bins collected at least once a week, at least ideally twice. They want potholes fixed in exchange for the millions of pounds.
Who the fuck gets their bins collected twice a week? Is this some like home counties bullshit? Because I've never even fucking heard of that.
I mean, fucking with that accent, almost certainly.
Yeah.
Zia Yusuf. Let's see where he is based.
Yeah, let's do a school check.
Well, he's born in Bellshill.
Where the fuck is that?
Yusuf was educated at the fee-charging Hampton School in West London.
I am shocked. Shocked, I say. Fucking hell. Yeah. Actually, I'd like my bins collected 3 times a week, please. Fuck off.
That is being spent on it, and they don't want their council tax going up 10 to 30% because councils keep going bankrupt. And Reform will deliver on those things.
Okay, so national government's going to have to give larger block grants to councils then, because that's why they're going bankrupt. It's because you've been giving them, well, not you, the Tories and Labour have been giving them less and less money to deal with the same things. Because they've got most of it is not discretionary spending anyway, because they have to provide those services by law.
Yeah, like temporary accommodation and social care.
Yeah, exactly, like childcare services and shit. Like that. These are things you need. They have to spend that money. So if you don't give them extra in block grant, what that means is that they've got no fucking money to do anything with.
That the vast majority of council money goes on things that councils legally have to do, like special needs education for children, care for the most elderly and vulnerable in our society through social care. But I want to stick on this because you've made a lot of promises about saving money from waste, from equality, inclusion and diversion, and diversity.
And diversion. It is a diversion, isn't it?
It's entirely a diversion. Because the things he said, like the money he wants to save, none of those were savings. A journalist might have picked up on that. But, you know, unfortunately, there isn't an award-winning journalist in the studio.
True. Also, hold up 1 second. I've just seen this on my Twitter feed. This is some breaking news, apparently.
Okay.
Completely unrelated. The Houthi military have announced an air blockade on Israel, urges all airlines to avoid Israeli airports, specifically the Ben Gurion airport, saying that they are
Targeting
telling
Brianna
all-
Wu personally, yes.
Certainly,
Yeah,
they're telling all
yeah.
international airlines to halt flights to Israel because they might shoot them down accidentally whilst targeting Ben Gurion Airport.
See, that when will the war on Wu finish? The Houthis versus the Wouthis needs to stop.
I mean, I can only assume this means that America and Israel are going to go after Iran now, surely.
Almost certainly, yes. No, this is the prelude to World War III, yes. I can't wait. I look forward to dying in the fucking Atlas Mountain. No, that's Africa. That's Africa, isn't it? What are the mountains called in Iran? It doesn't matter anyway.
County Durham, a council you now control. And he said the bins are collected on time, potholes aren't nearly a problem that they are in other counties. What exactly do you object to about equality and diversity and inclusion? What's the problem?
Well look, so in places like County Durham, there is a lot of disaffection about local government.
Yeah, can I just say, well done to the Starmer Politburo, McSweeney, McFadden, the rest. You took a century of unbroken rule for Labour in Durham and destroyed it in 9 months. Bravo,
Incredible.
You really are electoral cancer.
There was a ward in County Durham where Reform won 65% of the vote share from a standing start.
No one's disputing your success, but what's the objection to that kind of thing that councils do, equality, diversity and inclusion policies?
Well, the objection is very simple. We believe all hiring should be merit-based and colour-blind, and the best person should get the job, regardless of any immutable characteristics or anything else. And DEI is the opposite of that. Look, ultimately, one has to choose between equality of opportunity or equality of outcome. And I keep...
Wow, and the guy who went to a private school and is a rich cunt, born with a silver spoon in his mouth, thinks that he has the same equality of opportunity as everybody else. Interesting, when you have a 100-metre head start, you think it's equality.
Yep, every single time, you know?
Going back to it, what constituents want, and the evidence for that is the overwhelming landslide victory Reform just won, is they want simple things like bins collected on time. While, you know, your viewer is saying there's not an issue there, we've spoken to many people. That's why we won a landslide, who are deeply unsatisfied at the way local government is run.
The question here is that you've said you can save money by cutting waste in this area.
Sure.
And we've checked with some of the councils that you won. Lincolnshire County Council said they don't have any staff doing those kinds of jobs. Staffordshire County Council told us they don't have any staff doing those kinds of jobs.
With respect, Laura.
Let me finish. Nottinghamshire County Council says they employ one person doing that job. And you said...
you see, that one person is what's bringing the whole country down with
Literally
their evil communism.
Every single tax rise you've ever had is specifically to pay that one person. That singular person is the black hole of council finances, just sitting there on tens of millions of pounds.
That's why we need to set up
of local councilpayers' money.
an entire range of bureaucracy in every single council area that we run. A kind of, let's say, a Department of Government Efficiency, if you will, to get rid of that one person in Nottinghamshire. That is a government efficiency.
Campaign. By cutting that kind of waste, you can save people money on their council tax bills. If there's hardly anybody doing these jobs, you're not going to save any money.
So I spent quite a lot of time actually looking at these freedom of information requests. And what you find when they respond to them is they're very loyally and very precise in their language. It's like getting blood out of a stone. If you take Lincolnshire County Council, yes, they do not...
Would you prefer them to just make up words that you didn't ask them about? Yeah, they give you the information you request. What the fuck? No, I want them to give me completely erroneous information about things I didn't ask. What the fuck are you talking about? Like there's some Machiavellian evil plot here. No, I mean, to be fair, they don't want to give out any information. No bureaucracy ever does. But like, if you give an information request and they're legally bound to do so, they'll just give you the information. It's not MI5, you prick. It's like the fucking leisure department at Lincolnshire County Council. Like, keep it in perspective, please.
Well, that's because they genuinely think we are everything has changed now. We have more say over the arrangements of bin collection. That makes us, we are now the serious politicians, adults in the room.
Yeah, it's mad. And the really annoying thing is, the fact that he's a brown guy means that most Reform voters see him as woke. He's the DEI hire of the fucking Reform Party.
Yeah, literally he is, isn't he?
Even though he's literally just a rich kid. Like, the fact that he's brown is irrelevant to it. He's just Nigel Farage in brown face.
See, to tell you why, this is, you're absolutely right there. Guess where Zia Yusuf met Nigel Farage?
Oxford.
At a cocktail party hosted by a millionaire.
So I thought they'd meet like I don't know, he was giving a speech at university or something. No, it's even worse. It's a fucking millionaire's cocktail party, presumably in like Knightsbridge or somewhere. Fucking Belgravia. Fucking oh god. These people, these are the cancerous tumour eating away at Britain. It's the millionaires and their fucking cocktail parties. It's Laura Koonsberg and her fucking dinner party commentary at... Oh, these people are destroying us.
Currently have somebody with the job title DEI officer. They do spend considerable money on DEI initiatives, and they have other people.
See, if we just redefine what we mean, then yeah, then you can say that someone who works in HR is a DEI specialist. No, it's just HR. They're trying not to get sued.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because again, that costs more money. Just getting rid of the HR department doesn't save you money. It just means you're going to lose more money down the line because you're going to get sued a lot. And lose and have to pay out lots more money than if you just hired a fucking HR department. Again, you can't just look at the not spending money as money saved, because that isn't how life works.
People who have basically that same job but under a different title, partly in response to the fact that they've been inundated by think tanks and activists putting in FOIs. What we are going to do, and this is our commitment to the British people, sure, we don't have a magic wand, but we will cut ways. You can hold us to that. We are going to send teams in, task forces. We'll be opening up applications shortly. We want the brightest and the best. If you've got experience in audit, if you've got...
So you're going to hire more bureaucrats to make government more efficient? Genius. Honestly, it's like you just looked at fucking Doge and went, that didn't work, let's try that.
In fixing potholes. If you're a software engineer, we're going to bring task forces in. We're now going to have access to the contract, access to the numbers, access to payroll, and we're going to make these changes. And once we have done that analysis, we will share it with the British people.
So you'll come back and tell us how much money you think you can save.
Absolutely.
But at the moment, you don't know. Let's talk about another kind of contract. Nigel Farage and other Reform UK politicians have said that you will reject migrants going to areas that you now control. How on earth can you do that when migrants get sent to go and live in hotels because of contracts? Yeah, you can't. You have no... Like, what do they think councils do? Honestly, they seem to think councils are way more powerful. They have access to all the information and they're hiding it. They have the power to stop national government from doing things when they clearly and obviously don't. Like, again, they organise the collection of bins and the running of leisure centres. This is not some great big, like, fucking MI5 operation or something. Like, the national government will send them there, and your choices are nothing. Your choices are nothing. You can't do anything about that.
Exactly. As been pointed out in chat, like, in terms of spending for district councils, schools, adult social care and pensions, like 90% of what they spend their money on, this is the vast majority of their role and their remit, just doing boring stuff that councils are required to do. You don't have the power over this. Even the mayor has the power over these things in the combined authority. They're vastly over embellishing the level of seniority that they now have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, your local councillors, lads. It's really not that big a deal. Don't get me wrong; they can make life better or slightly worse, but ultimately, it's national government that decide these things. They are merely the kind of instruments to do things on a local level. That's it. Yeah, incredible stuff. Also, just on a kind of wider point, if the implication here is that migrants make things bad, which essentially is the position that Reform take, why are you enforcing that on other people then? So you're going to stop them going into your area by magic words or something? I don't know. An incantation, perhaps. Or maybe they're like flies. If you put a joss stick down, they'll go away. I don't know. So they'll have to go and live in other areas of the country and make those areas significantly worse. But yet you tell me you care about the country and you want to win the votes of those people, even though you're making their lives demonstrably worse according to your own metric. Why are you trying to hurt the country?
Exactly.
Between the Home Office nationally and 3 big providers. So how will you actually do that? Because, again, we've checked this. The break clauses for these contracts is not till 2029. So aren't you promising something you can't deliver?
What Nigel promised, look, so we are realistic about the fact that, yes, we won an overwhelming victory yesterday, but the Leavers are...
No, it's not overwhelming. You got 35% of the vote. Like, that's good. That's like, I'm not denying it's a victory. It's not a majority or anything. It's
No.
really, like, again, just keep it in perspective. And even if you had won an overwhelming majority, it's the council elections. It's the council elections. You've got 5 MPs, one of which won by 6 fucking votes. Let's
Or
not
like
pretend...
34% or something, you know?
Yeah, let's not pretend that you've got like the vast majority of people on your side here. And it wouldn't matter. The law is the law. You don't have the power to stop this.
power at local level, pale in comparison to the levers of power in Westminster. That's why this is part of a journey to making Nigel the Prime Minister with a reform majority. However, what our commitment is to our constituents and the people who voted for us, this is our mandate. Those levers of power will be pulled with all of our might by reform councils. We'll use every instrument of power available to us to stop it. And
Yeah,
there are things...
but that doesn't mean anything. Your levers of power are sticks. They're twigs. You can't stop this. This is bollocks. You're just a politician talking shit again. You promise things you know you can't deliver. You're a liar.
You can do. There are judicial reviews. There are
Although, to be fair,
injunctions. There's
to be fair
a lot
to
of
him,
different things can be done. Things around plan.
If anyone has learned anything in British politics over the last 18, 24 months, you can just do anything just by lying. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. You can just fucking tell a pack of lies, and it doesn't matter as long as you're the sensible adult in the room.
Yeah, to be fair, we do live in a very much a post-truth world. Yeah.
You've told
around budget
people,
allocation
but you've
as
told
well.
people on a specific point, and people care a lot about having asylum hotels in their communities. This has caused a lot of concern to many people. But you've told...
And, of course, this leads to further disillusionment in the system, because people have gone to reform because they're pissed off at the 2 main parties for not reducing immigration and making promises that they know they can't keep and have no intention of keeping. And that's precisely what Reform are now doing.
Yep.
You promised the local people in Durham and Lincolnshire and Nottinghamshire that you were going to stop the migrants from being there. It's gross. It's a fucking gross thing to have said and done, and it's gross that people voted for that shit. But that's what happened. And you knew there was no chance of you being able to stop this. So you lied to them. You did exactly what the 2 main parties did. You took advantage of a thing that people care about, you lied to them, and you can't deliver it. You're no better.
Told them that you will reject migrants going from the council areas that you now control. How will you actually do that? Because the contracts to house those people are between the Home Office and accommodation providers. You don't have the power, perhaps, to keep the promise that you've made.
There are instruments of power available to us.
Yeah, there are injunctions, which mean nothing. There are judicial reviews, which will stop nothing. At best, you can slow it down a bit. You can be annoying, and that is it. So if you want to be a protest party, no one will vote for you at the general election. If you want to make promises that you can't keep, no one will vote for you.
And this is exactly what Starmer and co are finding out now.
Yeah.
Well, like what?
Judicial reviews, injunctions. There's planning laws. You know, a lot of these hotels, and there has been litigation around this already. A lot of these hotels, when you suddenly turn them into something else, which is essentially a hostel, that falls foul of a number of regulations, and that's what our teams have...
Wow, you're really going to go, we can take down the national government with zoning laws. Fucking Jesus Christ. Like, it's like listening to Keir Starmer.
It really is. It really is.
lawyers are exploring at the moment. And we can look at budgets as well. So the word we used was resist. Look, we're not in government yet. That's our plan. And that's why people watching this programme believe in these values.
No, that's fine. Yeah, you're not in government. So don't make fucking claims about powers that you don't have because you know you're not in government. Tell people, if we get into government, we'll stop this. Vote for us and we'll do what we can on the local level, and then when we get into national government, we'll do the thing. Don't pretend you can do it when you can't fucking do it.
Yeah, because all it's going to do is fucking screw over the voters who expected you to deliver and then you haven't.
Like, honestly, this is how you end up with a democracy dying, to the degree we even have a fucking democracy, but whatever. Like, even the protest vote candidates are wankers who have no interest. The entire political establishment is run by posh boy wankers.
Around people whose first action upon coming to this country was to break our laws and then to live at the behest of taxpayer money.
But the question here is the difference between saying things and doing things. Yeah. And you will be in office now in local government in much of England, and you've told people publicly that...
Also, again, it wasn't illegal. If it's asylum seekers, it's not illegal. They didn't break the law. And they have no option but to live by the British taxpayers because they don't have any legal right to work yet. So what do you want them to do? Starve? I mean, actually, I don't answer that. Your reform, of course, you want them to fucking starve.
Yeah.
You will resist the migrants coming to their communities, but you don't have the direct power to do anything about it. Unless, are you saying Reform's lawyers will try to use the courts to close asylum hotels? I'm trying to understand what you actually do.
There are a number of instruments at...
Well, I mean, they tried having operatives try and close those hotels last year, didn't they? They weren't lawyers, certainly not, but they did definitely try and close those hotels. But don't worry, Nigel Farage got his information from Andrew Tate, you know, the trafficker who's on trial for rape and trafficking of people.
I tried to punch down a wall. I was completely unsuccessful, but at least I tried.
Yeah, exactly. Ridiculous.
At our disposal, which our teams are working. We've only just won the election, right? So what we're going to be doing...
He's such a smug posh boy cunt.
We will use every instrument available to us. And those include things like injunctions, those include things like judicial reviews, those include things like actually enforcing the planning laws, because we think a lot of these changes that are being made are in violation of a number of these laws. And we're going to look at budget reallocation
Your new
as well.
mayor in Greater Lincolnshire, Dame Andrea Jenkins, said asylum seekers should go in tents. Is that now the party policy?
That's what France does. Do you think that's unreasonable?
Is that now
and do you think that's a reason why?
She didn't ask you whether that was unreasonable. She asked you whether that was your party's policy.
Do you think that's a reason why? Do you think that's a reason why people come across the English Channel? They risk their lives coming across the English Channel to come to the UK because we're a soft touch, Laura.
But the question here is that now Reform UK's policy? And France does not put all of its migrants or people who are seeking asylum in tents.
But it does put some.
The question is that now the party's policy, that that's what you want to do, is house asylum seekers in tents?
Laura, we held a press conference around 10 days ago when we announced that we would be publishing a plan to deport everybody who is currently in this country illegally in our first term of government. We will publish that plan in the...
See, I just want to do the line about now is the winter about discount tents. But it doesn't really fit, but I just want to do that line. Anyway, hello there, Hannah Reloaded. Welcome in, Raiderinos. Much love to you. Everyone go and follow Hannah Reloaded, who is cool and awesome and that. I'm Kevin Logan, a socialist from the UK. I'm joined by No Justice MTG, who is cool and awesome.
I am very much so. And everyone should go follow Kevin Logan as well whilst you're here. I'm assuming everyone in my stream already has followed you, but if you haven't, do it immediately. It's KF Logan 1875.
Yeah, indeed. Can you tell Helena she has had gifted memberships, please? According to Vicky. You have not been announcing your gifted membership.
Why is it not giving me any notifications of this?
Are you lying to me, Vicky?
No, I mean, I'm assuming not. Yeah, it was Katie with the 5 gifted. Thank you very much for the support. Appreciate you.
Yeah. You can give money to either or both, or I suppose neither, but I won't advertise that bit. In the form of bits and subs and memberships and super chats and that.
Coming weeks, and you'll see the full detail.
Okay, your brand has been based on accusing the other parties of not keeping the promises that they've made to the electorate, and clearly there's been a lot of public frustration, and you've done incredibly well in these elections. But listening to you this morning, you can't yet tell us how much money you think you'll save on the promises that you made during this election. On other things, you're essentially saying, wait and see. You'll look at the levers available or the plan will be coming. Have you actually, as of today, off the back of this victory, got detailed plans to deliver what you've been elected to do?
That's literally what we've been working on, right? I mean, the election was a couple of days ago, and...
No, dickhead. No. You have to have plans before... actually, no, you don't. The current government doesn't have plans 9 months after it got elected. So, like, I suppose you don't have to. But in theory, you're supposed to have plans in place before the election, tell people about those plans, and allow them to assess those plans as to whether they think those are good or bad, and therefore whether they should vote for you or not. That's how a democracy is supposed to fucking work. Not, it happened 2 days ago, how could we possibly have a plan? Like, you realise you have to be the new fucking government in these local places.
Well, that's because, again, they don't care about the role of governance. They don't care about it. They just want, again, for them, getting into local government is specifically a springboard for how they make gains at a national level, right? Yeah. They actually do not give a shit about the ins and outs of local government. I mean, maybe there are plenty of them on the floor or on the ground that do. I'm sure most people who want to get elected to councils do, but the people like Zia Yusuf, Nigel Farage, and Richard Dice, they just fucking don't.
Yeah, true.
We are very confident we'll be able to save a lot of money because we have spent a huge amount of time in the last few months. It's part of why we won the election, Laura. We were very clear. You know, we held that big conference in a big event, 8,000, I think, people turned up in Birmingham to see it, and we went through a huge amount of things that are just objectively wasteful ways that taxpayer money is being spent in these councils. And that is the mandate, Laura, that we have got from voters in overwhelming fashion. So look, we've just won the election. You know, we've got 677 councils. They're electing their leaders as we speak. Our commitment to the people who voted for us and the constituencies, yes, we will save you significant money. Your bins will be collected on time. We will fix your potholes. And there will be a new approach to local government, which will be based around common sense and competence.
OK, well, we will see. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Zia Yusuf, good to have you with us in the studio.
Yay, adults in the room, but even more racist. Cool. Thanks, Zia.
For coming in. Well, Nigel Farage branded this election the beginning of the end for the Conservatives. And we can show you some of the sad faces with those blue rosettes.
Oh, yes. Oh, here we go.
Oh, yes. It makes me feel virile to watch them.
Goon sesh material. Let's fucking go.
It really is, isn't it? Let's fucking go.
The party lost.
Oh, look at his little face. Oh, can we adopt him? I can keep him as a pet. It's okay, little boy. It's okay. Don't be scared.
Lost more than 600 councillors.
He's probably
and
very
all
racist.
16 of the councils that they held going into the vote. The Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, has described the election results.
Oh, there we go. Oh, I just ejaculated.
Oh, Diddums. Oh, poor baby.
Oh, you'll have to go back and do more PPE at Uxbridge, you wanker.
Results as a bloodbath. And she's apologised to councillors who lost their seats on Thursday night and Friday afternoon as the results came in.
Who's this random... Is this a work experience girl they've got on the show? Who's this? I don't know. Laura, aren't you supposed to be talking about the Conservative Party? Who's this? Who is she? Doctor Who is she?
She's with us in the studio. It's good to have you with us. You've said many times people are cross with what you did when you were in government and that this is a protest.
I should probably explain, for Hannah Reloaded people, you're American, you might not know. Technically, she is the leader of His Majesty's Loyal Opposition, the leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch. But she's so irrelevant that I do that joke every week.
How can you be sure that this rejection of the Conservatives isn't permanent? Justine Greening's just told us the Tories are finished.
We have to make sure that it is not. That is what I was elected to do, to renew our party and rebuild trust with the public.
That's not the question you're asked, though.
No.
How can you make sure? And she was just like, well, we don't want to do that. And I'm like, of course you don't want to get wiped out. And of course, the whole point about this is we don't want prescriptions on what you want to do. Well, how are you going to do it?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Howdy all. Are Conservatives across the pond having a bad time? Well, the Conservatives are, yes. But unfortunately, Conservatives are, to some degree, still winning. It's just they're called the Reform Party. So they're like, it's kind of good because like it's like, oh, how do you explain it? It's like getting rid of one colonial power, and another one's just turned up.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like we're glad we won that first one. That's awesome. But unfortunately, there's another set of wankers. So like, you know, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It's not quite like in Australia, where literally the leader of the Australia and Canada like just did a fucking a snap. They had their left liberally shithouse competent government won a massive landslide in an anti-Trump way, and the leader of the opposition party lost their own fucking seat in both places.
Well, the promise, of course, is that our supposedly left-wing, which is not left-wing at all, party, instead of repudiating Trumpism, are trying to emulate it.
Yeah, indeed. Well, exactly, yeah. Flow Snake needs... Oh, thank you, Katie. Flow Snake needs a sub. How do I do that, Kev? Hang on. I don't think you can choose the person on YouTube that your gifted sub goes to for some reason. I don't know. Yeah, you just have to do it randomly or some shit. Basically, I don't know is the answer. But thank you, Katie. Also, I didn't realise Peter Dutton literally didn't have eyebrows. I thought it was just like he had very light... And then I saw a zoomed-in picture and I was like, he doesn't have eyebrows.
Yeah, it's a very funny picture that keeps going around of him. That's what I noticed too.
Look, it's really weird. Like, not only is he racist and awful, and it's very funny that he lost his own seat, as well as losing any respect or chance of ever becoming Prime Minister, but he also lost his fucking hair on the upper part of his body. Like, he's just a cue ball. It's very strange. Anyway, R.I.P. Lol.
But that does take time. And one of the things which I said when I became leader was that the road was going to be bumpy. No party has come back in one term from the sort of defeat that we had. I'm going to do that. But the way to do that is by making difficult decisions, thinking very clearly about what policies we're going to bring in.
You aren't capable of thinking clearly. That's become patently obvious. Go back and eat more steak and shut up.
Making announcements, but having a proper plan.
But in 1998, after the Labour landslide then, the Conservatives actually gained councillors, and by some measures, this is the worst local election results for your party ever. You said Reform's a protest vote. You've also said the Lib Dems are a protest vote, and basically it's going to take time.
What the fuck are the Lib Dems protesting against? They're like the ultimate fucking establishment wets. What are you talking about? They're rage for the machine.
Politely advocate for the machine.
Yeah, exactly. Like a baby otter. Hobby horse for the machine.
Abseil for the machine.
Isn't it a bit complacent just to say, I need a bit longer, it's going to be tricky? Have you got time to do that?
So in 1998, they were not having elections after an unprecedented high. The elections we had 4 years ago, we did better than we'd ever done before. Even in good times, we would have had a worse result. And I am sorry to all of those councillors who've lost their seats.
Imagine if you were a Tory backbencher listening to this fucking waffle. Like a baby otter. Like, oh my God. They're just like a roll on November, for fuck's sake. For the love of God.
They must be itching, champing at the bit.
Yeah. Can we invent a time machine to get back to to go forward to November? Because she's literally going to destroy the Conservative Party. Fucking hell. Waffling on about like, well, technically in 98 we had the blah, 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 blah. You're getting absolutely eviscerated. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, politicians genuinely think they can just lie to everybody and no one will ever notice. Because, I mean, I suppose they get away with it so often that they just do, you know? They can lie to the electorate, but, like, politicians don't want to lose their seats.
Oil like a baby otter.
Thank you, Katie Marshall, for gifting 5 memberships, and thank you to Specs Being Farmer for gifting 5 memberships. You people are so generous, honestly. I will do anything for you. I will help you hide a body. I will be your getaway driver if you rob a bank.
Oil like a baby
I'll do
otter.
lots of illegal things for you. In Minecraft.
But what I have that the party's performance has got worse on your watch.
If I could finish the first question. 4 years ago,
yeah,
Keir Starmer had his worst result. He is Prime Minister now with a landslide majority.
Right, but okay, Kemi, I'll explain this to you. Right, you have the beginnings of a point there. Okay, they did have a terrible result, but what you fail to realise then is that the government that you were a part of did so badly that
like
people would
baby
rather
otter.
vote for like childhood bone cancer than you. Right, they would rather get the clap than vote for your party.
And that's the thing, right?
And I'm not even finished yet. Right, that's the beginning of the point. You are now coming off the back of a terrible result last year against a political party that are doing the same basic thing, and you're losing. You're not bouncing back on the part that your opposition are committing suicide, because your opposition are committing suicide, and you still can't win. That's the point. You can't win, even when you're pushing against an open door. You're going nowhere.
That's the thing, right? Keir Starmer was up against a popular Boris Johnson. Keir Badenoch is against the most unpopular new Prime Minister we have seen in decades, and is still going backwards.
Yeah, unbelievable shit. I will just turn my alert box off for a second because I'm getting fucking Tourette's from oiled like a baby otter. Your generosity is delightful and I appreciate it, but I don't need the fucking noise a million times. Thank you, Andreas, who says this Conservative token is about to be spent. Let's not be racist, shall we? No, I'm only joking. No, she's garbage, yeah. And thank you, Dingus Van Zandt, with 5 gifties. Much love to you. Yeah, honestly, thank you, Agent Bad Enoch. You have destroyed the Conservative Party, which was my lifelong dream. But I'm happy that, you know, I'll take the assist on this one, but you get the goal. You've absolutely killed it. Lovely work.
We live in politically volatile times. And what I've been saying is that we are going to take the slow and steady way. There will be bumps along, but...
Jesus Christ, she's trying to Keir Starmer her way out of the morgue. Slow and steady, adults in the room. You just lost 700 fucking seats. You just lost all of your councils. Literally, all of your bears, not bears, what were they called? Monkeys? Whatever. Apes. All of your apes are gone.
All my apes gone. Literally 18 council offences, 18 council losses.
Amazing.
Do this, and we will do it in 4 years, not 18 years, 14 years, 13 years like previous oppositions.
But the point here is that since you have been in charge, the party's performance both in the national opinion polls and then on Thursday with real life votes, the party's gone down on your watch. And if you look at other parties...
Oh, God, she's like that. She's lost in the headlights. Oh, she's already dead, Laura. You don't need to continue to beat the corpse.
Other places in Europe, whether it's France, Italy, Poland, to name just 3 of them, the traditional right-wing party in those countries has been usurped. They've been replaced by others coming along. So are you sure that's not going to happen to you?
Because again, they weren't going after or supporting their core constituents. They were doing shithouse neoliberalism. Again, it's overconfidence. It's almost Fukuyama-esque, if you will. They thought it was the end of history. We don't need to do traditional conservatism anymore. We're in a new paradigm. Communism's gone. Thatcherism, Reaganism is here to stay forever. We all agree on this. No one needs to disagree on this. And the people of the country went, can we not have crumbling infrastructure, please? Can we not have our country being completely destroyed by fucking Palantir?
Can we have a train?
Yeah,
anywhere?
can we have a train? Can we just one fucking train? And ironically, the British government went, you can have half a train. We were going to go all the way to Manchester. We'll just go to Brom now. Okay, you can have half a train. Fucking hell. Unbelievable. Yeah, so it's no wonder. Yeah, of course they're getting fucking done. In the same way that the socialists are getting done in France as well. Because again, they stopped doing socialism. Well, they were never really socialist. They stopped doing social democracy, really.
Yeah, exactly. They just... The Francois Hollande was such a fucking damp squib that it did nothing for France. Of course they fucking kicked him out, you know?
What a surprise. Again, when you send in people who are against people who are protesting, you send in the fucking army against them. They don't want to vote for you because you're not a socialist at that point, are you?
Like, the failure of people like Hollande is what led to the simultaneous rise of Le Pen and Mélenchon, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Literally. Conservatives abandoned conservatism and Social Democrats abandoned social democracy, both in favour of some weak-ass neoliberal bullshit, because again, it was the end of history. And the people went, no it fucking isn't, you pricks. And now the conservative fucking media establishment are all like, the people disagreed with the one opinion you're allowed to have. No! My consensus areno!
Yes, and that is because we are working on a plan. When I came in, I said it was likely to get worse before it got better, and protest is in the air. What we had was Labour saying all we need to do is...
Imagine that being your pitch to your party. Things are going to get worse. What a fucking mess.
Things can only get worse.
Jesus Christ, no wonder this hasn't worked. You started off by saying, this is shit. Under my leadership, things will be worse than they were.
Again, it's just the other people. She told her own campaigners, like, if you can't campaign whilst I have no policies at all for you to campaign on, then you're not good enough and you should leave. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, Kemi?
Yeah, and then they left, and she went, oh no, they've left. Oh no.
We've shaken off the fleas.
Yeah. And we're just a nation of fleas going, well, where the fuck did we go then? What? Didn't we have bodies we used to be on? What the fuck is this?
is get rid of the Conservatives and everything will be better. Things got worse. Now we have Reform saying, oh, we need to get rid of the Conservatives and Labour and everything will be better.
Hang on. Things will... So I was expecting to come out and say, no, things aren't that bad and try and be a bit more positive. But she's saying, no, things did get worse. Yeah, I told you they were going to get worse and they got worse. But you made them worse. That isn't a defence. You're literally saying, I'm the reason that these things got worse. My leadership made this worse.
It's me. It's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
Yeah, like... okay, I mean, it's a novel strategy, Cotton. We'll see how it works out for her.
Will get worse. But protest is in the air. Yesterday, I had a meeting with councillors in Hertfordshire, some who won, and also candidates...
Hang on, you have any fucking councillors left? Where did you drink these up from? What?
Yeah, I played five-a-side with my remaining councillors.
Yeah, we took a single taxi there. It was lovely. Yeah, fucking hell.
Who lost. And what they said on the doorstep was that people were frustrated with the previous government. I was not leading the previous government. We are going down a new...
Okay, but you were in the cabinet and you did bollocks it up everywhere you went. So, like, you're
a fucking business and trade secretary. A lot of the things that are the problem are essentially down to the economy. Which
No, it's the Department of Culture, Media and Sport. That's the one that needs to go. Okay, that's the problem here. That's the thing that people are so pissed off with. Oh, hang on. What did I do there?
You were in the previous government.
They voted for me because of my record in government. I'm one of the people who was trying to fix the things that went wrong. But what they said on the doorsteps, that immigration is still an issue. We try to fix structural problems in our society, aging society, people living longer, not enough people having children. We try to fix all this with immigration. That has not worked. Immigration has now become a problem. We need a party that's going to have credible solutions to fix all that.
But isn't it dangerous to dismiss
what solutions?
This?
Tell me the solutions, Kemi.
Well, no, that would involve having policies. That's the point. Will she be the first political leader to never have a policy? Look, because she could be ousted before she ever actually announces a single policy.
Yeah, she might well be.
Like, I mean, fucking old Lizzie Slayer wasn't around for long, but at least she had the policies of destroy the economy and kill the Queen. And to be fair, she was successful at both.
For reform as just a protest rather than something more serious. I mean, we've had an email in from one of our viewers, Anthony, who said the Tories have been roasted because they stopped being Tories about 14 years ago. And I
would say 40 years ago, but yeah, they stopped being Conservatives, yes. And the Conservative voters went, well, I'd rather not vote for you then, because I want to vote for some conservatism, please.
Yeah.
And thank you. Now, again, I disagree with conservatism, but I understand that people who are Conservatives who vote for Conservatives want conservatism, and they were not given conservatism, so they went elsewhere. Simple.
One of your ex-council leaders says you've not helped. Jason Smithers said that you need to resign.
Hang on, his
personal...
name's Smithers.
I mean, the Tories that are left, they're fucking hilarious, right? Because the people who are still left are all of the posh ones who enjoy the dynasty of the Conservative Party rather than the politics.
His name's... Look, that shouldn't... Look, that's not the... I shouldn't make fun of that, really, but it's Smithers. Now I'm just imagining the leader of Nottingham, or the Hereford Council, wherever it was, going, crack that whip, licorice whip. Like, it's just... That's all I'm thinking in my head. Hello, Smithers. You're quite good at turning me on.
Responsibility in terms of what's gone on.
What everyone has said, that this is something, as your reader mentioned, that has been 14 years in the making. That's not going to be fixed after 6 months. This is 6 months into a 5-year project. And what we are doing is steadying the ship, being united. A lot of the instability of the past has gone away, but I am not being complacent. I am not dismissive. Reform had a good night. We had a bad night. And what this shows for a lot of people who hoped that just changing leader again would fix everything is that that's not going to be enough. We tried that previously.
Yeah, you have not been enough. Yes. Again, you seem to think this is somehow a defence of you, and it isn't. You're shit. You made it worse. Choosing you as election has not fixed anything. So maybe you should leave, I guess. No? I don't know.
Well, go. She's here till later. Also, thank you, Specs, for the 5 gifted. She's here all year. Here all year.
Well, it's amazing to me that she's literally doing well, this is a 5-year project. Bitch, look, you're going to be there in 5 fucking years. Shut the fuck up.
And that brought us to our historic defeat.
But I suppose the question is, what are you going to do differently? I mean, you got walloped, for want of a finer word. But this was a terrible performance for you.
The words that we've heard. Roasted, walloped. Oh, inject it into my fucking foreskin.
Party.
That is something that we always knew was going to be the case. We said it was always going to be challenging. We said things would get worse before they got better.
Than
but the question you asked, Laura, was what am I going to do? I'm leading from the front. We are going to make sure that we have a credible offer that the public can believe in. We're going to be honest with people about what's wrong with our country and how we fix it, not just with slogans and announcements, not just with easy promises, because we have a government that did that.
Or policies
what is more astonishing is that less than a year in, after a landslide, Labour had worse results than what it had 4 years ago when people were asking Keir Starmer to resign. We have serious problems in our country that need a serious party.
I just wonder...
We are down, but we are not out. It is my job to make sure that the Conservative Party turns itself around quickly enough.
What do you think that Nigel Farage is getting right?
He is expressing the feeling of frustration that a lot of people around the country are feeling, but he also doesn't have a record in government like the two main parties.
See, she gets like if anything can tell you why she just fucking doesn't get it, is this answer right here.
Yeah.
You know, where he goes, well, he understands the voters' frustration, but he has no history in government. He has no track record. People can't feed their kids, Kemi. Yeah. People can't feed their fucking kids. Of course, you've never had to care about this, because outside of 5 minutes of Saturday work at fucking McDonald's, you spent all of your time being so rich that you literally decided not to take maternity pay because your husband could afford to take care of the entire fucking time, right? Like, you do not get it. People are not just frustrated because politics doesn't speak to them. They're frustrated they can't feed their fucking kids. They can't feed their kids, Kemi.
And just on that point of, like, he doesn't have a track record in government, but the problem is for you that you do have a track record in government, and it's shit.
It sucks.
Everyone hates it. So, like, I mean, in many respects, him not having a track record in government is good, because at least he hasn't done anything dreadful in government because he's never been in government.
People hate politicians, they hate Westminster in general, and they want the antidote to Westminster politics, which Nigel Farage looks like, not just in terms of how he speaks in terms of policy, but how he speaks in terms of rhetoric and sincerity, you know? As much as I despise the man, at the very least he says what he means and means what he says in a way that straight-talking Kemi fucking doesn't. And when she does, it's clear that what she believes is totally out of step with the vast majority of people in the country.
But neither of both major parties have had a really terrible night, and the thing they've learned from this is precisely zero.
Yep.
They've learned nothing. Because if they were capable of learning this, they would have and wouldn't have made the mistakes initially.
He's going to be running some councils. We'll see how that goes. But he is expressing a feeling of frustration. That is not my job. My job is to come up with answers and solutions, but also to let people know that we get it. We understand why they were angry with us. We understand why they removed us from office. They're not going to come rushing back just because Labour was bad. They are looking at the two parties as parties that haven't delivered.
Why not?
They need to come up with a
They
plan.
rushed to Keir Starmer because you were bad. Well, some of them did. Enough of them did.
Yeah.
But literally no one's going to you, even though Keir Starmer's less popular than Liz Truss. Not Liz Truss, than Theresa May, Boris Johnson. I think even Rishi Sunak at this point. But yet people don't want to vote for you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the fact that Keir Starmer could pick up people's votes when they were frustrated with you, and you can't do it the other way, says something about you and people's opinion of you.
Yeah, what is it about you that's so fucking repellent?
You had the worst result in history for your party, and you're looking to do even worse next time in terms of not just a vote share, but number of seats as well.
To be fair, as Lord Frieders points out, so she said things would get worse, and they did, and they say Conservatives don't keep their promises. How unfair. Very true. Very true. That's her one policy was things will get worse, and they did. A politician you can believe in.
That will deliver. Easy announcements and easy slogans are not a plan.
But maybe people agree with Nigel Farage's ideas. Maybe they like the sound of this. And I come back to your suggestion that this is a protest vote. If you rely on calling it a protest vote, the implication is you just think it will go away. You know, a protest vote is a sort of
I certainly
temporary
do
thing.
not believe that. But
Sorry, it was Marcel, not Lord Frieders. I get my French people mixed up. They all look the same to me. I can't tell them apart.
Add the numbers.
You don't think this will go away?
This was 30%. These things, we look at what's happening all across the world. You talked about France. Look at what's happened in Canada, where a Conservative leader...
Yeah, look at Conservatives around the world as shit. So it's fine. She's
even then, like,
she's a genuinely special person. Can we keep her forever?
Even
She's
then, like,
amazing.
Pierre Poilievre, like, increased the Conservative vote share by, like, 5%. It just happened that Mark Carney increased the Liberal percent by, like, 15 points, you know? Like, Pierre Poilievre did better than whoever the last one was, Stephen something, whatever his name was, by a pretty decent margin. But
not in his own seat, to be fair.
Yeah, I know it's his own seat, but they're trying to move him around to get another one. But even so, like, they increased their vote share. Peter Dutton lost votes, and not down to the Labour Party being like everyone's first choice, but because he was fucking shit at everything and his party sucks. Similarly to what Kemi Badenoch's trying to do.
Yeah, true. Thank you, Story Girl. Much love. Much love.
The opposition, 23 points ahead when I met him in December, lost his seat this week. Same thing happened in Australia yesterday.
Could that happen?
Hang on, so you're the kiss of death then? He was 23 points ahead, then he met you. Wow, you're like a vortex of losing votes. Just everything you touch turns to shit.
So anything can happen. That is why we are not being complacent. You asked me what I think is happening. I've said I do think it is protest, but that doesn't mean we sit back. We are going to come out fighting. We are going to come out with the policies that people want to see. But what we are not going to do is rush out and tell the public things that are not true just so we can win votes. This is not about winning elections. This is about fixing our country. Yes, of course.
This is not about winning elections. Okay. Like, you're gone by next week, I think. I know that's the thing you're supposed to say in a sort of sense, right? Or like that's the kind of rhetoric, like it's about fixing the country. Motherfucker, you just lost so bigly, and you're now like it's not about winning elections, and your backbenchers arseholes
I mean, clearly it wasn't.
grasp the chair underneath them.
I mean, if you say so, Kemi, you don't want to win elections, and the public have obliged.
Yeah, exactly. That's, to be fair, they also don't want you to win elections, so...
Yeah.
That's the one way in which you actually agree with the British public, yeah.
You need to win elections to do that, but you also need a credible plan. We've seen what happens.
You don't have that
either. Without a plan, just winning, and everything gets worse.
Do you think it's feasible that Nigel Farage could be the next Prime Minister?
As I've said, anything is feasible. Anthony Albanese said, people were writing him off. He's just won a landslide. But my job is to make sure that he does not become Prime Minister because he does not have the answers to the problems the country is facing. How do we increase productivity? What is the plan to improve our environment while dealing with climate change? How do we make sure that we can deal with an aging society, people not having...
Interesting. She's really flipped on the climate change stuff.
I was about
It's
to
almost
say, yeah, that's interesting.
It's almost like some strategist told her, people actually like environmentalism in this country. It's one of the most supported things in terms of policy across all voter groups, all demographic, all age splits, all parties. Apart from some reform voters, even a reasonable amount of reform voters, all support policies to deal with climate change. Environmentalism
But
as an
not
ideology,
not
it's
net
most popular.
stupid zero.
Well, yeah, it's the least popular policy, really, Reform UK's climate change stance. And it's almost like a strategist has told her, maybe you should try and make that your difference and try and call them like climate deniers or whatever.
Which is
very, very
true,
interesting.
and they should. But, like, it's a bit
It's also
late
funny.
now.
It's funny because after last week where she got fucking owned on the Peston show,
Yeah.
where Anushka Astanis pointed out, actually, literally, the reason why everything is so expensive is because we use too many fossil fuels. That's why bills are high. And she had no answer. She sounded like a stupid idiot.
Because she doesn't know what she's talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
Enough children. Immigration, a big issue. His answer is to have another minister. We have 2 ministers who are dealing with that. Those are not serious solutions.
Do you think people
We will
should have
come up
more
with that.
children?
I do, but that's a personal choice. But we have to look at the demographics of our country. We cannot solve it with immigration. It is making things worse. It's making us all poorer, and none of the problems are being fixed.
OK, Camille Badenoch, thanks so much for coming in. It's been a very busy and tiring days for everyone who works in politics, so we're grateful to you for being with us this Sunday morning. Well, it was tricky for the Conservatives, very, very tricky, but it wasn't a much prettier picture for the Labour government. They lost the Runcorn and Helmsby.
Screaming Lord Such. Or no, Howling Lord
Howling Lord Hope.
Yeah. You've got to love the fucking monster roving loonies. They just keep chugging along.
I don't know where they find all the money.
Well, they're middle-class twats. Like, they're probably fine. Yeah.
Election. There's the victorious Reform new MP alongside a grinning Nigel Farage there. There was only 6 votes in it, but it had been a rock-solid Labour seat. And they lost councillors, a far cry from July.
Sprotborough. Honestly, Americans, these are not made-up places. They do exist. I know that it looks like something, one of those experiments with a monkey at a typewriter popped out, but, like, that does exist.
It's also worth pointing out, I was looking at the Britain Elect's forecast before the council elections. They were forecasting the Labour council seats to go up.
Really?
Yeah.
They only just beat out the Independents on the night.
And they lost, they lost like 150 or something. They lost loads, and Britain Elects were predicting them to increase. And Labour were expecting to increase as well.
Yeah. Bad day.
You've probably heard Keir Starmer's new mantra now. The government will go further and faster to get things done. But is that going to be enough?
That's what the Politburo's new fucking ignorance is strength line is. Yeah.
To cheer voters back up. Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, is with
500 fucking votes!
us.
And one kidney.
Thanks so much for coming in.
And one
let's
kidney,
start, because we love hearing from our viewers. Let's start with a question from Philip, who says this about Keir Starmer. What he fails
Honestly,
to...
it's the only thing that makes me hate the NHS is the fact that they saved him. Like, could you not have just dropped the ball on this one, lads? Really?
Or is not willing to admit is that the local election results show people are not happy with the changes he's making, changes that were not in his general election manifesto. Do you admit that lots of voters just don't like what you've done in office?
Well, there's no doubt, and I campaigned in a by-election in my own patch in Runcorn, across the country. There's no doubt that there are some individual things that we've done that people have not liked. What I would say in defence of those decisions is we knew at the time
22 billion.
That, to be honest, every single measure we've taken to raise more money for the National Health Service, for example, has not been popular and has been contested. But the reason we've done that is because people wouldn't thank us if we left the NHS rotting in the crisis that we inherited. Thanks to those decisions, we've seen NHS waiting lists fall 6 months on the trot. The 2 million more appointments we promised in our first year, we delivered 7 months early, already over 3 million.
Oh.
I also understand why, I'm sure it's happening right now as we speak, as I'm on the telly saying waiting lists are falling, there'll be people shouting at the telly saying, hang on a minute, I'm still waiting. And both of those things are true. waiting lists are falling, there are still 7 million cases on the waiting list. So I understand why, whether we're talking about waiting lists, whether we're talking about interest rates falling 3 times, whether we're talking about wages finally going up above inflation, people won't necessarily be feeling the change yet. And we know, the Prime Minister knows this, that's why he's talked about the need to make progress further and faster, that unless people feel this country has changed and changed for the better at the next general election, people will look for change elsewhere. We know that.
People are feeling some of the changes.
That's the
that
thing,
you've made,
so,
changes
you know,
didn't tell them about.
And that's what she's just about to say there about not being told about it is the real problem here. The question specifically said things you never said you were going to do because they weren't in the manifesto. Of course, just for everyone knows, the manifesto was basically an empty document to give them a blank slate and a blank check to do whatever they wanted to in government, because they couldn't be held to anything, essentially. This is why they did the whole £22 billion dance. They could justify tax rises that weren't in the manifesto, essentially. And then a bunch of things that the public all hated, like the cuts to winter fuel payment or to the disability cuts. People don't like the agricultural property relief changes, even though they're good. Like, loads of things that, again, they could have just put in the manifesto and people wouldn't have been able to complain because they have a mandate for them. There is no mandate for any of this. Yeah. And when Keir Starmer also said, very specifically, that the people with the broadest shoulders should be the ones who should be burdened with any changes that they make to get these outcomes in the NHS, for example, he lied. Because the pensioners who are just above pension credit, they need the winter fuel allowance, they're not going to get it. They don't have broad shoulders. The disabled have the least broad shoulders, economically speaking, of anyone in the country. So it was a pack of lies, and there is no mandate for it. And people aren't happy with you because it doesn't matter whether or not they see their waiting lists come down, even if that's good or bad. I think it's good. It's because they understand that this is coming at the expense of the poorest in society, which Keir Starmer told you he would not do. Even in the manifesto, it said, we will treat the disabled with dignity and we will always have their input into how we govern. And they did the opposite. They told the disabled to go fuck themselves. And people are furious. People are angry, right? The target, the £2 bus cap moving to £3 targeted the poorest people in the country. What, to save £350 million? That's nothing. That's peanuts. People are rightfully pissed off. And the whole reason why is because you didn't think you had to be honest with them in the run-up to the election. And it's true. You weren't honest. It was all disingenuous.
Yeah, exactly. Like, literally to the pertinent question. It's not that people want you to go faster and further and harder and stronger and longer and whatever. It's people don't like your fucking policies. Your policies are bad, and you should feel bad.
Now, in your manifesto in the election campaign, people are feeling the difference from winter fuel allowance being taken away from millions of pensioners. Businesses are feeling the difference having to pay more national insurance for their staff. There are changes you've made that you didn't warn people about that people don't like. And telling people again and again you're going to go farther and faster.
It's so funny to me how one of the two things she brings up as things that weren't in the manifesto that people are angry at, she didn't mention either of the two biggest ones, which were the winter fuel payments being taken away and the cuts to personal independence payment. But she does choose to bring up the national insurance rise on businesses, which didn't even feature in More in Common's poll of people's concerns particularly highly.
And of course, the biggest one, the Chagos Islands.
Of course.
The number one priority of all British voters.
But it just shows you the kind of people who do journalism in this country. That
rich wankers,
yeah, exactly. A bunch of rich people. Again, they don't really have to care about cuts to PIP or cuts to winter fuel payment. You very slightly increase the overheads on businesses by 1.2 percentage points. Evil. You are evil. You hate business. How dare you?
Yeah, exactly. I'm surprised you didn't bring up the farmers. The farmers.
Oh, the farmers might have to pay the same tax as everyone else.
Also, I do hope she brings up the fact that West Streeting's former advisor,
parliamentary staffer, I think it was.
Oh, sorry, parliamentary staffer, exposed himself to a minor and then chased them down the street, as you do. Avoided jail for that. That was fine. That piece of sexual assault against a child, that was fine, you know.
Only the highest quality candidates.
Highest quality candidates, and of course, heaven forbid, because we don't have the places in the prisons to send nonces there, but we do, because mostly those prisons are taken up by 70-year-olds who stood on a bridge or plan to stand on a bridge, maybe at some point in the future, and cause a nuisance.
With things that they don't want, is that really going to cut it?
Well, it's the outcomes people want to see. They want to see safer streets. They want to see stronger, more secure borders. They want to see waiting lists falling. They want to see the cost of living improving. Those things do take time.
No, I just want to see you crying. I just want to see you in pain, crying. Not physical pain, emotional pain. It's much more painful.
A country with the range, the breadth, the depth of crises we inherited, you don't turn that around in just 9 months. So all I'd say to people, we've got the message, we're not daft, we haven't got our heads in the sand. All I'd ask people for is to give us a bit of time and to give us the benefit of the doubt, to recognise...
I don't think people think you are daft. I think they think you're manipulative, calculating snakes.
That's 100% what people think, right? Yeah, like, remember that poll that we watched of Savanta? We looked at a Savanta poll that was asked a word cloud.
Yeah,
for
the
people.
word cloud, yeah.
Yeah, what's the one word you would use to describe Keir Starmer? And the most answered was the word liar, right?
My personal favourite is one of the words was cunt. Was literally in the word cloud. Not even particularly small in the word cloud.
Literally, I mean...
Yeah.
Basically, it's true, obviously.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, people understand him to be disingenuous. They know that he's not stupid because he was he was the director of public prosecution, which, of course, he's never mentioned, right? People know he's not an idiot. What they do realise is he's a lying politician, and they're sick of lying politicians, just like you, Wesley.
Yeah, talking about him being the DPP, which he doesn't like to talk about. One of your colleagues on Navarra said that Keir Starmer was an impressive person because he'd become DPP leader. And I saw some of I don't even know, MAGA communists, I don't know what the fuck they were, criticising and going, oh, see, Navarra's right wing because they said that Keir Starmer's impressive. And I'm like, motherfucker, like, there are reasons you can criticise, but this is silly. Like, it was impressive. Like, he's bigged up his working class credentials, but he came from reasonably humble stock. Certainly far more reasonable than that position usually would, you would think.
Well, exactly. Like, this is comparative.
Fine.
This is
and then he became
to,
Prime Minister, right? Which, by lying, but like, it's still impressive that he achieved that thing, considering where he started in life. That's fine. That doesn't mean he's a good politician or a good person. Jesus.
No, like, one thing is, and his legal career before he became a politician or became DPP, pretty good, working at ending the death penalty overseas, giving gratis support to the McLibel case.
He did personally intervene to ensure that Jimmy Savile would continue his reign of terror. For legal reasons, he did not do that.
The range, the breadth, the depth of the crisis that we walked into, we're going at those challenges as hard as we can, as fast as we can. We're as frustrated and impatient about the challenges and the change that's needed in the country as everyone else.
But people's
and
frustration
Katie says, Wes, stay away from Pride. Yeah, the Labour Party are not fucking welcome at Pride.
I think most political parties have said that have been pretty much ousted from Pride now.
Well, I mean, if you're going to go after queer people's rights, they might not want you around. Yeah, that's
true.
That's a fact.
Necessarily about the challenges that you faced on getting into office. People's frustration are with the decisions that you have made. So I just ask you again, telling people again and again, Keir Starmer says it, you've just said it, minister after minister after minister says, we have to go further and faster. That's a slogan that suggests to people that you're just not listening to them, actually. You're going to do more of the same, more of the things that they don't like.
No, on the contrary. The Chancellor's been very clear with the Cabinet and with the country that we can't just kind of keep reaching for the tax lever to solve our problems. We've got to do more on the reform side, making sure money is better spent. That's why, although the Chancellor has invested £26 billion more...
Learn nothing. Learn absolutely nothing. Yeah, they don't know why they're hated.
I mean, I understand why they're saying this, People just have this kind of complete opposition to any amount of taxation in this country. You try and raise taxes at all, anywhere, people jump down your throat, I mean, you see what happened with the VAT on private schools. Interestingly, another thing that didn't come up at all in the More in Common word cloud about policies and how they're perceived by the public, because no one fucking cares other than journalists, But genuinely, we've kind of deluded ourselves in this country that taxes never have to go up ever, and anyone who does is evil, right? Remember that there was like the last time we kind of saw the Tories really raise taxes was the national insurance rise. There was this massive outcry when they did it under Boris Johnson and Sunak. And it's just like, well, yeah, we have an aging society. They keep banging on about was the highest tax burden we've ever had since the Second World War. And I'm like, yeah, it's because we've got loads of old people. We have more old people than we ever have. And they are dependent on taxpayers. They are dependent on the workforce because they don't work and they are receiving state pension and lots of NHS care, right? And it's good that they do. I'm glad that they do, right? But the more proportion of your population that's elderly, the more you have to get taxed. And because we've just deliberately tried to pretend that we don't need to increase taxes, given that reality, all we've done is strip back the functioning of the public realm to the point where it's totally unusable.
Yeah, very much so.
And the NHS made possible because of those choices, not all of which have been popular. But I would argue as Health Secretary, the right choice to invest in the NHS. I'm also going hard at the layers of bureaucracy in the NHS to make sure the money that's already going in, as well as new money, goes as far as it possibly can, that we're having real impact on the front line. And that's true for my colleagues right across government.
I just wonder, though, after 9 months, nearly 10 months in office, you know, you are a not so new government anymore. You know, you're not babes in the wood who've just arrived. Is there anything, as we were asking Kemi Badenoch the same question, is there anything that you look back now and think, oh yeah, maybe we should have done that differently? I mean, I just wonder, maybe you shouldn't have spent so long when you moved into Downing Street as a party telling people how dreadful things were. You know, maybe people are gloomy because you told them to be gloomy.
I just think honesty is the best policy. And, you know,
Fuck off.
We came in.
You, Wesley Streeting, cannot possibly say that. No. That is
anyone
ridiculous.
anyone representing Keir Starmer politically, which of course he is a minister in Keir Starmer's government. The absolute brass neck, the temerity, the barefaced cheek of anyone representing Labour at this point talking about honesty when Keir Starmer is the most serially dishonest politician ever in the history of this country.
No, JOB told us, okay? No one thinks he's a serial liar or whatever the fuck.
A proven morally corrupt serial liar.
That's the thing, yeah.
We knew the country was in a state. That's why people chose change. We'd prosecuted that argument in opposition. There were some things that we walked into that were genuinely even worse than we feared. When I walked into my department, for example, the Department for Health and Social Care, I was told that instead of delivering 40,000 more appointments a week, which was in our manifesto, the first step we promised, that I'd have to instruct the NHS to deliver 20,000 fewer appointments every week because the money wasn't there. Our predecessors had spent money that wasn't in the Treasury, and we could have just gone, oh well, that's a shame, and gone to the country and said, oh, I'm sorry, we've broken our first step on the NHS. The Chancellor and I didn't do that. We made a different choice to invest in the NHS in year, as well as the new financial year, which has only just started.
Raise people's taxes to do it, but that was your choice.
Whether it's those taxes
your choice.
or the things that were in the manifesto, like the private school VAT, going after non-DOMs, asking the wealthiest to pay more. Those things have been contested too.
But hang on a minute. But the amount of additional revenue that you get from the changes in the non-dom taxpayers and the VAT on private schools is literally less than money you're taking away from the disabled. You can't make this argument as asking the rich to pay because you've asked them to pay less than fucking people who cannot wash themselves, who cannot wash the bottom half of themselves unaided. You have asked them to pay more in terms of the changes in funding of government than you have the richest in society who privately educate their costed and disgusting little offspring and people who don't even try and pay taxes in the UK because they're abroad.
Well, when they said broadest, they meant least broad. That's what they meant. It's just a small mistake in the fine print, really, you know. Or they're lying bastards, one of the two.
Never popular, but what I hear from our opponents is a lot of criticising how we raise the money at the same time as often saying we should be spending even more. You've got to make choices.
Yes, raise money from taxing rich cunts and the evil rich businesses. Yes, actually. Yeah, that's it. Don't eviscerate the poor, tax the rich just a bit. That's actually not that difficult, Wesley. If you weren't a shitbag, lickspittle cunt, to quote the great Dawn Foster, R.I.P. You'd be able to understand that, but nah, you and fucking Milburn privatising the NHS by stealth, brilliant.
choices. We've made those choices, and I hope and believe that over the course of this Parliament, as people not just see the improvements in the numbers, but feel the improvements in their lives, that people will think, OK, the change we voted for is happening. I'm just asking people to give us time, give us the benefit of the doubt, recognise that turning around a country with the breadth and depth of the crisis we have.
No, fuck you. You're the government.
You say
You're the government. You don't get the benefit of the doubt, you prick. No. What was the last thing you ever did for me? Fucking benefit of the doubt, you prick. No, go away. Like I'm supposed to just fucking trust that you have my best interest at heart. You, Wesley fucking Street thing. Get wrecked.
Are listening to the public. Was your colleague Lucy Powell listening to the public when she said about grooming gangs that have appalled many people? She said it was a dog whistle when a reform activist expressed concern about it. Does that look like she was listening to people who are terrified about that whole saga?
Well,
to be fair, it is a dog whistle when they talk about it. Because they don't care about this. Because, like I say, Nigel Farage gets his news from Andrew Tate, a leader of an actual grooming gang. So they don't care about the protection of children in the slightest. What they do care about is going after brown people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. That's why they only ever bring up Asian grooming gangs, not
exactly,
the white ones. You know.
Lucy's apologised for those comments, and it's right that she's apologised. What I would say, and I've been in plenty of those debate formats myself, sometimes in the heat of the debate, you say something that comes across badly, that you wish you hadn't said.
She's a member of the cabinet.
Yeah, but she's also human, and I've made mistakes in the past. I'm sure I'm going to make mistakes in the future. She's mortified.
I can think of one mistake that a particular NHS surgeon made. Or, more pertinently, didn't make.
And, you know, she does not want and would not want people who've campaigned on or been victims of these most appalling crimes to think she was in any way trying to undermine those experiences or those arguments. I think the point she was trying to make, and the point I would make, is on such a serious issue, the more we can take the heat of the politics out of this and get to the heart of the challenge, the better. That's why, since we've come in, we've asked every police force in the land to look again at all of those cases that were marked no further action.
But everyone knows that there's going to be no national inquiry. But just as we've got you, when it comes to your job as Health Secretary, there's an important debate going on around public sector pay. Now, some doctors are balloting again for strike action. Nurses said no to 5% last year. The Royal College of Nurses is currently surveying their members about what they want to do about pay. You spent a lot of taxpayers' money trying to end strikes last year. Are you going to do that again, or are strikes a real possibility?
Well, what I'd say to resident doctors who are currently...
See, paying people is not very adults in the room. Paying more to have strikes and worse services is adults in the room.
Very true.
So guess what Wesley's going to fucking do?
Balloting is they'll see and receive in the coming weeks the recommendation of the pay review body. So I'd urge them to kind of wait and see the figure that's recommended and how government takes that forward, same as the rest of the NHS workforce. I do understand, and I've got a lot of sympathy with the arguments that are being made, particularly by the lower paid members of the NHS workforce. Whether you're a recent, relatively recent graduate, as many resident doctors are, often in their 20s and 30s, struggling with the cost of living. If you're a nurse, you're often, looking at every month the money that's coming in, but also the bills that are stacking up and having to make some really difficult decisions. So we do want to make sure that people are paid fairly. That's why the Chancellor, within days of coming into office, acted to implement all of the recommendations of the pay review bodies last year, and also gave me the mandate to resolve the resident doctors' strike. So I think I'd say to people at the moment, judge us on our record here. We came in within days, we dealt with those public sector pay issues, we resolved the resident doctor strikes. I want to work with NHS staff, not just on pay, but also on the wider terms and conditions and the experiences they're working in.
Okay, I suspect that's a conversation.
Yeah, I want to also fuck them up on other issues as well. Yeah, thanks.
We'll probably come back to very briefly. The big story this morning, an important story. We're hearing that police have arrested 8 men across the country in separate investigations into counter-terror plots. Is there anything that you can tell us about that?
Just to say, firstly, thank you to police and the security services for the work.
Oh, thank you, police. Oh, thanks. Thank you, police. Fuck off. Why is there... Look, what do you want him to say here? Like, it's just happened. Like,
yeah, I'm sure they don't have much information.
Well, they're going to
either.
reveal all of their names and the detail. No, of course he's fucking...
Tell us the race. You must know the race.
Well, they're Iranian. We know. That's... Yeah, that... They're clearly...
They're Romanian?
No,
okay.
Iranian.
Iranian, right.
Yeah. Or Iranian nationals. That's not necessarily an ethnicity, of course, but yeah.
That they are doing in these cases and do on a daily basis. It is work that is often unseen, where success goes untrumpeted, because the nature of those investigations, it is often highly secret and highly sensitive. We'll obviously keep the public updated as we can. Given these are live investigations, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment further, but it is a moment just to remind everyone.
Again, so why was it asked then? Because like you're obviously not going to reveal anything, and that I wouldn't want him to. Like, it's obviously an ongoing issue, and he could prejudice a case against very dangerous people. So why even ask him then? What's he going to say?
Every single day, these people are saving
award-winning
lives,
journalism.
The naming, the praising, the credit that other people get in other walks of life. So we're very lucky to have them.
Okay, Health Secretary Wes Streeting here for the Labour Party this morning. Thank you very much indeed for coming into the studio this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, of course, we always want to know what you think. We've had some of your questions.
I fucking hate Wes Streeting, honestly.
No one angers me in politics more than him.
Dead-eyed,
He's such a fucking
snaky piece of shit.
Literally, he absolutely, like, entirely is dead behind the eyes.
And you can tell that he's like the hatchet man that's going to destroy the NHS, or at least privatise it to a large extent. Because you know that even during the talks that are currently ongoing about the cabinet reshuffle, he's not moving. Guarantee he's not fucking moving.
Absolutely not. And I think that they got rid of Bridget Phillipson specifically because they think that she might challenge Starmer for leadership.
Possibly, yeah, that's possible. Because I don't think that... I mean, I think they've all done loads of shit wrong. But I don't think she's done anything particularly wrong that's made the Labour Party unpopular, really.
No, the biggest people to blame for that are Rachel Reeves and Liz Kendall. And Starmer himself,
and
of course.
Starmer, yeah.
For our politicians this morning. You can keep them coming in. The email address is there. If you're social media minded, you can use the hashtag BBC Laura Kay, and the WhatsApp number is there as well, 08000 282 161. Let's talk straight away then to the leader of the Unison Union, Christina McAnee, somebody very important in the Labour movement.
It looks like 4 generations of the same family.
It does, doesn't it?
They've met up for brunch, you know?
You said there needed to be a reset. You heard Wes Streeting there. What did you think of what he had to say? Doesn't sound like much of a reset on the way.
Well, I hope that there will be, and actually, I think Wes is doing a pretty good job as the Secretary of State for Health.
Fuck off. That's a union leader.
I think one of the problems we've got at the moment in the Labour Party is that everybody's talking about all the mistakes they've made, and they have definitely made mistakes. But we're not really talking.
Honestly, Unison's such a shithouse union. God almighty.
Genuinely, the Melt Brigade.
Yeah, General Secretary. I think he's doing a fantastic job of privatising the NHS.
And she represents people in the NHS.
Yeah, like it's literally that's public sector union mostly. Yeah.
All the other things that they've done. So certainly from my perspective and our union's perspective, we've got an employment rights bill going through Parliament at the moment, which is the biggest shift to workers' rights for over 70 years. It's going to get rid of 0 hours contracts, going to end fire and rehire.
It's going to get rid of some 0 hour contracts, yes.
It's going to give sick pay rights from day one. It will give us a fair pay agreement in the care sector. All things that the country's crying out for and that people desperately need. We've seen what they've done in Scunthorpe on British Steel. Waiting lists are coming down. There's, last year we got above inflation pay settlements in parts of the public sector, particularly in the NHS. So these are all the good things that need to be talked about, because certainly most of the media won't be reporting on those things because most of the media is not particularly Labour friendly. So the party has to talk about it, the government needs to be talking about it, and as do others. But that doesn't take away from the fact that there's major problems. So, Wes spoke about pay at the moment in the NHS. NHS workers were due to get their pay increase on the 1st of April. And yet again, we're waiting. So people don't know what they'll get. We've been asking for them to get rid of the pay review body and just go into proper negotiations that we've got in Scotland, and that actually does come up with better results.
Justine Greening, when you...
But then they have to take accountability for their actions. And what you need is a scapegoat. You need a think tank or a fucking quango or a review body or a pay body or this or that as an intermediary. So you can just go, it's not our fault. We're the government and we sign all the checks, but it's not our fault, honest.
We palmed off the responsibility onto literally anyone else. Can you please blame them?
And the thing is, people won't blame them, but like it gives them plausible deniability and gets them out of a difficult interview. And yet
Exactly.
more faith in the democratic system trickles away.
You heard Zia Youssef talking about what Reform is going to do. There was quite a lot of, we'll get back to you, we'll let you know. What did you make of what he had to say about their plans or lack of detail in their plans?
I felt like they were insubstantial versus the promises they'd been making to people. I thought it was worrying that having made such a big deal about waste, I think everyone would agree that we need to cut waste out of any tier of government, including local government, that in a sense there wasn't any idea as to how much there was to go at. I think...
Well, it's the same with fucking old Doji bollocks in America. They didn't have any idea. Look, it went from 2 trillion down to 250 million and now it's 150 billion. Like, it's not going to save anything. It's almost as if actually the system has been cut to the bone by generations of shithouse fucking Reaganism, and that there isn't really much loose fat to be gone at now.
Exactly. Again, it's exactly what I was saying before, is that with the increasing burden of all of the different kind of social welfare payments that have to be put into an aging population, people lied and said that government was spending too much because of woke, essentially.
Yeah.
Well, the government was spending too much because we were socialist. And I was like, no, we just have a state pension and we had an NHS and these services required more investment in an aging population. And instead of raising taxes in accordance with that level of demographic aging, we just cut back. And as that obviously ate into budgets on things that were necessary to ensure that the economy was functional to maintain the growth that we need to continue funding those services for everybody else. And then we didn't.
Just imagine you're a recycling operative in Gloucestershire County Council and you're going to have to write an email to Nigel Farage with 5 things you did this week. Brilliant. Can't wait.
I think you've got to wish anyone who's coming in to lead a local council well. We want well-run local councils delivering great services. But yes, I think to hear that they're now going to be starting to work on these plans, I think most people would have preferred to see the plans there before.
What then it comes to Kemi Badenoch saying again and again, look, this is a...
Look at that picture of Farage. That's not a human. What
the
is
BBC,
that?
The BBC do like to use pictures of Farage where he looks like a weirdo, but like I think that is, I don't think they should. I think it makes him look endearing. It makes him look like not like a politician, right?
Yeah, because he doesn't look like a mammal. I don't know what he is. Looks like a fucking fish or something.
Protest voters, protest in the air. I just want to bring people with an interesting email from Ronnie, one of our viewers, who said, I don't think reform is the answer, but I want to send a warning shot to the Labour Party in the hope of getting them to wake up.
When fucking Zia Youssef says we've got a mandate, not really. A lot of people who voted for you have no idea what your policies are, or don't particularly like your policies, but just want to tell the Westminster to go fuck itself. That's it. That's the one policy they want is fuck Westminster. Because Westminster offers them nothing but shit. So you don't have a mandate for your policies particularly. You have a fragile coalition. Deliver for those people, or you'll have the same fucking result in a few years.
Exactly.
To become the party they once were, a party that had the back of the working class. Tina, you've been watching politics here as well as in America for a long time. Does this look to you like a blip of protest or something bigger that's going on?
Well, no, I do think it is a warning shot. But I also think that, I mean, to me as an American,
okay, maybe I'm overanalyzing this, but that seems like such a perfect mask off moment from the media commentariat. The idea that it's a blip of protest. The idea that people's anger is just something that will sort of dissipate and it'll go back to normal. We can all fucking barbecue and it'll be 2012 all over again. That's it.
Like historic Northumberland areas that have been Labour heartlands for decades can just massively just desert them overnight. Blip, just a small blip.
Yeah, just a blip of protest. No, it's both of those things. It's a change. It's to an extent a permanent change, albeit there are obviously going to be fluctuations. But like, I can't do this anymore. I can't see it going back to the way it was.
No.
And again, again they just want it to go back to normal, where we have two parties that believe the same thing and will do the same thing over and over again. It's just a blip of protest. No, it isn't. People are genuinely angry. You should listen to that, otherwise it becomes a blip of revolution at some point. Anyway, a noise happened. Okay, hi everyone. Let's annoy Kev again. Thank you, Kato. They do super chats on my thing just to scare me now, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't have enough money to retire, so the heart attack I'm going to have at 53, because of all the added stress. Good. That's my retirement plan, is dying young. Welcome to millennialhood.
It's so true.
Nigel Farage, and I think, wait a minute, weren't you the Brexit party? I mean, whatever happened to the trade deal? Whatever happened to bringing immigration down? But Farage is such a brilliant cross-dresser in politics that he's able to just sort of flip around and lie, because he's such an amazing communicator. And I think that, you know, the Labour Party should have actually hung that round his neck. But at the same time, you know, Keir is in a vice, really, because he's actually governing. So he, for instance, can't go out there and be like a big warning about Trumpsters, etc., because he's got to deal with Trump and he's got to get his trade deal and he's got to, you know, he's dealing with Ukraine. So he's in a much more constrained situation. The other problem, of course, is that we're living in an era when people want vivid personalities. They just want them. It's the entertainment age, and unless you're
right, but dealing with Trump is one thing, but like Albanese's got to deal with Trump, Carney's got to deal with Trump. And they were both able to be not wankers and not suck his dick and win. That's a lesson one could learn.
True. People like their country being stood up for.
Yeah.
Internationally, which of course Starmer isn't doing. He is pandering and capitulating.
Yeah. Thank you, Eric, for resubscribing. You've been with me 12 months. God bless. Sounds more like an exit plan, Kev. Yeah, it's Kexit. Yeah. My Kexit plan is to have a heart attack.
vivid personality, it's really hard to get your message across. And Keir is not that vivid personality, but I'd much rather be Keir than Kemi this morning.
But that's an interesting thing, though, isn't it? Do you think, Christina McAnee, there's an issue with Keir Starmer not looking like he's sort of rolling his sleeves up to get stuck into this? He didn't go to Runcorn in the by-election. Nigel Farage was there all the time, banging.
Well, yeah, because some people do like Nigel Farage, whereas nobody likes Keir Starmer. Like, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of people who despise Farage as well. I'm very much one of them. But everyone hates Keir Starmer. Especially Keir Starmer. He has to look at himself in the mirror. And I don't know how he doesn't terms of service himself.
Literally, I mean, basically, I would not cope it with looking in the mirror every morning if I was Keir Starmer.
No, it would be too much. It would be too much.
On doors, you know, and we know from talking to Reform sources that one of the things they did is they went on banged on doors of voters who the other parties hadn't spoken to for a long time. I mean, doesn't Labour need to look more vigorous, more active, as Tina's suggesting?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I'm sure there's people doing the post-mortem as we speak about how could they have turned out that extra 6-7 votes that would have made a significant, you know, that's all it would have taken. That's 2 doors to knock on to try and get people to come out. So I'm sure that's all.
You know what they could have done, which might have been cathartic for the local people? Get Keir Starmer to go there, but put him in stocks. Put him in the stocks in the public square, and let people pelt him with like vegetables and stuff. Go old school with it. I think people would have humanised him. People would have been like, you know what, we'll give Labour Party another chance, and maybe they'd have won by 6 votes. He might have won over 12 people.
12 fleas.
Yeah, 12 fleas would have jumped back on. And Morgan McSweeney be like, no, still get off. We'd rather lose.
Happening. But I think Tina's absolutely right. That the problem you've got is when you're in government, it's completely different from when you're in opposition or when you're, you can promise anything. And it's just interesting listening to the.
See you later, Katie. Thanks for stopping by.
I mean, their naivety. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. Would say they're naive. I think probably more likely they're just misleading people. All these promises they've made. Now they're going to come bang up against the harsh reality of trying to run local authorities, which have seen their funding cut to the bone since 2010.
This is going to be a shit show because they have no experience or indeed want to be in government. They don't
exactly.
They fundamentally don't agree with the concept of government, basically.
Yeah, they're going to look and realise that most of their money is going to get spent on adult social care and on temporary accommodation. Realise that there is actually no money left at all.
Yeah. Honestly, I can't wait for the libertarians of the Reform Party who've just been elected to go, oh, national government, can we have a larger block grant, please? Can you give us lots of taxpayers' money because we've literally fucked it? Honestly, it's going to be amazing.
Up by at least 30%, and he never mentioned the two biggest areas where local authorities spend their money: education and social care. Once you take that out of the equation, there's very little left in local authorities to spend on all of the other things, and it's total nonsense what they've been saying.
Justine, I know you said very starkly before we spoke to Kemi Badenoch that the current version of the Conservative Party is finished. To get the Conservative Party back on track, in your view, what does she need to do? And listening to her this morning, do you think
seppuku in Minecraft?
It's an option.
I think she understands what's going on.
I think the party needs a sense of purpose again. People need to know what it stands for, and that then informs the policy agenda. For me, it's always
she
been
needs to
obvious.
just put out a video saying, I've heard you, I get what you mean, and then she jumps onto a bouncy castle. Because she's a fun person. That's what I meant.
Exactly. Just connecting to the electorate.
Exactly. She's taken the Ed Davey approach and she's gone mental and gone bouncy castling. She's going to one-on-one Prime Minister at FIFA instead of doing Prime Minister's questions. It's a very modern approach to things.
Yes, the party should stand
What
for
a
equality
save.
of opportunity, social mobility. The policy agenda should flow from that, whether it's within government, whether it's what businesses who have opportunities do with them, how they reach them to communities that need them. It's got to be really around how we can develop the talent that Britain's already got. I heard Kemi talk about people having more children twice. We've got a lot of children. Let's develop the ones we've got in our schools. Let's look at how we can make sure that those gaps don't open up in the education system as they already do. There are some really practical questions facing the Conservative Party, but I think more fundamental is what is the point of the Conservative Party now? And if we can't find an answer to that, then we shouldn't assume things won't continue to get worse.
OK, all three of you, thanks for now. Be back with you later in the programme. Now, there's, of course, another party in the mix here, the Liberal Democrats. And as Professor St John told us earlier, the party's share of the vote largely held steady, but the collapse in the Tory vote meant they gained 3 councils.
Oh, he's going to be outside. I guarantee he's going to be outside. Is he allergic to being in a fucking studio?
Oxfordshire, Cambridgeshire and Shropshire, where Ed Davey was celebrating with an ice cream on Friday, and their leader, Sir Ed Davey, joins me now.
Can we stop the small boaters, please? Because he's wearing a boater hat. Let's fucking go.
Good morning to you.
Told ya!
You're the party of Middle England. Good morning. But your share of the vote...
It's just Ed Davey in a fucking field. Oh, I hope a cow grazes behind him and nudges him or something.
Didn't move in a meaningful way. With the Tories in free fall and the government unpopular, shouldn't you have been absolutely hoovering up in terms of the overall share of the vote?
I mean, they did okay.
Oh, we had a fantastic night, Laura. For the first time ever, winning a majority in Oxfordshire, in Cambridgeshire and Shropshire, becoming the largest party and almost winning in Devon and Wiltshire and Gloucestershire and Hertfordshire. So, yeah, we were very pleased with our results. And, we're now the second party.
They did okay, and you've got to say, it's been disgustingly impressive that this fucking Wankstain, who purposely went around and strangled people to death who work for the post office. It's a joke. I'm joking now. He was in the coalition government, right? has led them from, I mean, along with previous leaders, including homophobic ones, from the depths of nothingness into being potentially the fucking opposition, Like that's actually the phoenix from the ashes type shit. As much as I don't like them, it is impressive.
Party in local government, overtaken the Conservatives, and I think we're on track to overtake the Conservatives at the next general election. So either whichever way you look at it, it was great.
True, but I think the fucking DUP could overtake the Conservatives at the next election. Like,
Oh my god, wouldn't that be funny?
That would be imagine if they had to sit behind the fucking Northern Irish parties. Literally, just the two of them at the back, just like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Literally, I dream of the Tory cuck bench. Let's go.
That would be amazing. Mate, they have to build a special little two-person seater thing at the back.
Oh, they stand. They're forced to stand.
Yeah, there's the fucking melters that have to sit in the aisle.
Great results for the Liberal Democrats.
You're in almost, I think, the leafiest place I've ever seen. I mean, you're very obviously targeting leafy middle
Dorset.
England. But does that mean you've, slightly given up on other parts of the country? Because in days gone by, the Lib Dems campaigning machine might have gone gangbusters in Runcorn in that by-election, for example.
Firstly, gangbusters. Can we not be American? Thank you. And secondly, it was the Shires were voting. And yes, that is as fucking Lord of the Rings as it sounds, everybody. That's
true, very
for the
true.
Americans. It was just hobbits and dragons and shit, yeah. It was like Gloucestershire and Northamptonshire. It wasn't... The big cities didn't vote, by and large, this time round. So what do you expect him to fucking do? There aren't many concrete jungles in Dorset.
There are other pockets of more urban areas where you might have gone very, very strongly. But now you're branding yourself so overtly as Middle England. What about the rest of the country?
I think Middle England is the rest of the country. It's the whole country. It's the vast majority
No, it isn't.
who want common sense
Davey, please one-on-one me at FIFA. Please, you're amazing. A hobby-horsing melt of a human being. I think Middle England is the rest of the country. You are a walking dinner party. You really are, mate. Fucking Christ. Has he got grey chest hair? Oh, that's minging. Oh, he's so munted.
Practical centrist politics and policies to fix the things that they...
Imagine a human saying that.
Or social care. And, we are now the official opposition in County Durham. It was the Conservatives and Labour losing seats to Reform there. We actually gained seats, and we're going to hold...
Oh my God, I didn't even realise they're the opposition. So Durham, like the reddest of red, literally it's been red for a century, is led by Reform and the opposition of the fucking Liberal Democrats. What world are we living in?
I mean,
what happened here?
It's all fucked up, isn't it?
That is mental. That is genuine. I don't even know how to explain that for Americans. Like Mississippi electing a communist or something. I don't know. Like,
It's honestly, it is literally. It's as if in Mississippi they
elected a black, gay, trans, disabled communist.
I guess it's kind of like Mississippi having in their house, and then their state house, being with the majority for the Green Party and the opposition from the Democrats.
Yeah. Or Alabama not electing a pederast.
True.
Reform to account. We had great results in Hull and East Yorkshire. Didn't quite get over the line there, but really good result, brilliant team performance. And in the next year's local elections, in many of those northern cities, I really expect us to do well. And actually, it was in the south where Reform got beaten. It was the Liberal Democrats holding back Reform in a place like Buckinghamshire, for example. And so I'm really proud. And
yeah, that's the rest of the country, Buckinghamshire. I love him. Honestly.
Milton Keynes was really the one bulwark of the country that he was necessary to defend.
Yeah. Oh, Ed, you Maltoid supreme.
Oh, Jesus Christ, thank you, Politico teacher, for expanding on that. In Durham, Labour in 4th.
Oh,
behind
what?
Behind Reform, Lib Dems and Independents.
Oh,
They lost 38 seats.
I imagine a lot of those independents were either ex-Labour or like just Palestine protest
Do you know that?
people. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's a good point, political teacher. Those independents, do you know if they're left wing or right wing?
I imagine there probably a lot of them are left wing, probably ex-Labour people who like left or whatever.
I'd hope so.
Because there was one of the councillors, I forget who it was, who had been a Labour councillor, resigned, and then stood against the leader of the council, the Labour leader of the council, and took their seat.
That was my ward.
Oh, was that you, specifically your fucking ward?
It was my ward. I voted for the winner who beat the Labour incumbent council leader.
So you didn't even vote Green?
No, I tactically voted for the Broxdale Alliance because I knew that Theresa Cullen was the best place to beat Labour.
Well, there you go. Local correspondent. No justice of the MTGs.
Yeah.
I think this is a massive step forward for the Liberal Democrats. I think our community politics, our focus on the issues that matter to people is coming through. And, I'm proud it's the Liberal Democrats taking on reform. And I think it can work if we show that their
To be
support
fair,
for people like
in terms
Donald
of the
Trump and
major
Elon
parties, they are the only one who do actually oppose them on matters of policy. As melty and shit as they are, the Labour Party are basically reform. The Tories want to be reformed so bad. The Liberal Democrats are the only ones who are like, Donald Trump's a bit of a bellend, and maybe Brexit wasn't cool. Which means they're actually different in some noticeable way from Farage. Which is fucking, what a grim synopsis that is, but it's so true.
Musk actually isn't very popular. Look what Mark Carney did in Canada, defeating a hard right opponent by standing up for patriotism for Canada. Anthony Albanese in Australia defeating a hard right candidate, another person who liked Trump. And I think if we can expose the fact that Nigel Farage is so keen on Donald Trump, that will mean that Liberal Democrats come through. I've been very disappointed in the way that Labour and Conservatives have almost copied reform and moved towards reform. I think we should call them out for what they stand for.
Nigel Farage, though, interestingly, once said he took his inspiration.
Leader of the vanguard of resistance, Sir Ed Davey.
The bulwark against fascism.
Oh, fucking hell. Imagine this dickhead leading Cable Street. Or something, like, you know what I mean? Like, this is not very sensible, Mr. Mosley. Sorry, Sir Mosley. Oswald, can we maybe talk about this? Have you considered the Jews aren't that bad, right? And a 5p bag tax.
From the Liberal Democrats with your local branches, local councils, local progress. If he's taken inspiration from you, doesn't sound like it, but I'll try my luck. Would you take any inspiration from him?
Listen, he clearly doesn't share our values. I don't share his. And I think what's going to happen now they've actually got to run councils, we will see what they do. In the election, Nigel Farage said they should cut funding for special education needs and disabled children and young people. I think families across the country will be really worried by that when polls close.
Well, not just that, but he said, like, oh, the DEI people are going to get fired. Like, motherfucker, you realise employment law's a thing? You just constructively dismissed them live on television. Like, you've just cost your councils hundreds of thousands of pounds before you've started. Bravo.
He said he wanted to ape Donald Trump and Elon Musk's policies in town halls. And look at some of the other policies. If he's really going to do what he says, presumably he's going to stop insulation programs that keep people's energy bills down and keep people's homes warm. If he does what he says on climate change, so I think we'll hold
Net
him
zero,
to account,
stupid.
Laura. And I'm very confident that people will increasingly see that it's only the Liberal Democrats taking on this divisive populist politics. And I just urge your viewers to Google "Let's join the Liberal Democrats" and come and join us.
Well, I think
both in our
the election
success in
campaign
community
is
politics
over.
and taking on reform.
I think the election campaign is over, but of course you're encouraging people to back your
Well, no, that's the thing. The election campaign never ends. Surely wanting to win people round to your support, like, that's a thing that happens every day, doesn't it? I mean, okay, maybe I'm... See, this is why I couldn't make it in the Westminster bubble. Because I've got different opinions to the one opinion.
It's true. You have stepped outside of the acceptable opinions. You know,
Well, I'm
you
not
are
an adult, and I'm
clueless.
not an adult, and I'm not in the room. So
You're a student politician.
indeed, I'm such a flea, really.
Party, but the campaign is over, but interesting to hear your perspective on what happened. Thank you very much indeed for joining us as ever this morning. And we should say, all this talk of English councils, in Wales and Scotland, there are big important elections next year, and then in Northern Ireland, elections in 2027. So that's why the focus this time round has been on what's happened in England, because that's where the elections were this time.
Yeah, well, we get elections next year as well in Birmingham. It's going to be a bloodbath.
Oh my God, I'm so looking forward to it.
The Rat Alliance, I'm telling you, get on the ticket early, people.
I mean, it's just going to be independence, isn't it?
It's going to be largely independence. There's going to be Labour people who have left already or are going to leave over the course of the next 12 months. There's going to be pro-Palestine people. It's going to be a fucking nightmare. Labour basically don't have safety in the city that they should have lots of safety. Because they fucked it up nationally and locally. Yippee!
There's another competitor who gained some seats, the Green Party. They did make some progress, but their share of the vote, according to our national projection, actually went slightly down. I spoke to their co-leader, Adrian Ramsey, and asked him why.
What we saw...
Because we didn't go for turfs enough. We need to appropriate the get the turfs. Turfs. Also, that is an amazing freeze frame.
It really is. I mean, it's just so Adrian Ramsey, isn't it?
Yeah.
In this election was an 8th year in a row where we've left the election with record numbers of Green councillors. So we took some big strides forward right across the country, as we've done over each of the last 7 years. And that's regardless of the wider political circumstances. And you look at how well Reform have done in this election, but actually their success is not built on strong foundations. Many of their people have been elected without having strong roots in their local communities. It remains to be seen whether they'll be willing to put in the hard yards. Green councillors have a strong track record in our communities. People know what we stand for, fighting to protect local services, defend our environment, get more affordable housing, whereas I'm now deeply worried about where we're left with Reform, arguing for cuts to local councils that are already severely overstretched, people unable to get places in special educational needs for their children. We're seeing public transport decimated around the country, and nationally we're seeing our NHS overstretched. So we need to be ready to take the argument to Reform.
But the question remains, I mean, as you've just said, there's a lot of dissatisfaction with the two big parties, but in these elections, people went much more convincingly to Reform and indeed to your other rivals, the Lib Dems, than they did to the Greens. So why aren't you able to capitalise on the public unhappiness in the same way that Reform and the Lib Dems have been?
Well, we have made big strides forward in these elections. Of course, I want to go further. And John Curtis has highlighted, as many commentators have done, that we now have an era of 5-party politics in England, 6 parties in Wales, people increasingly thinking about where they're going to go. And this is a time when the Green Party's growing, and I'm ambitious for what that next stage looks like for the party.
Well, it can't involve you as leader.
Not literally anywhere near any amounts of campaigning or public-facing anything. What's frustrating, right, is that during the election, I thought he was actually pretty good in interviews. I wasn't expecting him to be. He did a pretty good interview with Christian Gurumurthy and with Nick Robinson in the fucking burger one, right? It's just for that moment in the election, maybe that was okay. Now it's just, oh my God, it just. Owen Jones said it on Twitter, right? At a time, at this time when people hate the income of government, they talk about how we can work constructively together. Put out an advert saying that Labour are killing people's grannies. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, exactly. Also, hello there, lesbian hot sauce. Everyone go follow lesbian hot sauce.
Do it. That's an order.
Indeed. Well, I think Birmingham City women's team is going to get promoted this season. Do you mean next season? Because we literally failed to get promoted.
Well, they're going promoted to run the council.
Well, they literally couldn't do work. No, from the second tier of the Women's Football League. But unfortunately, we drew on the last day. Oh, a winner would have been promoted, but such is life.
Party, I want us to take another big step forward, and I'd say to people looking around, looking at the fact that this Labour government has come in, is cutting funding in real terms to the NHS, to funding for local councils and other frontline services, is removing the winter fuel allowance, is removing the support, crucial support from some of the most ill and disabled people in society. If you want a different approach, if you want a livable future, a fairer future where we support the most vulnerable, invest in our public services, then do what so many other people are doing, do what record numbers of people are doing, and join the Green Party. Be part of our movement for a fairer future, for saying we can fund the NHS if we ask the very richest in society to pay a bit more. We can have a livable future where we take the climate action that Reform is trying to stop and make sure that we do have a livable future for our children and grandchildren, and do it in a way where we support the most vulnerable people in society.
I reckon we need to build more pylons.
Around his house.
Specifically
Very fine
around-
style.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you're going to be a dickhead, pylons.
Like he's a nice, he's acting like a very nice guy, and that won't cut it. Won't cut it at all.
And he's a turf. I'm just putting it out there.
You can't like I mean, he put out a joint statement with Carla repudiating the HRC statutory guidance, which, you know, I guess that's probably saved him some face. But at the end of the day, we need zealots.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry. Yeah, you was offered 4 opportunities on Radio 4 to say whether a trans woman was a woman and refused to answer. Oh, sorry, get wrecked then.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
if TERFs are welcome in your party, then I am not. Simple.
Saying before, I thought the election campaign was over, but there we are, Adrian Ramsey from the Greens. Now time for something different. The Hollywood legend Jeff
I don't
Goldblum's
care about Jeff Goldblum.
Don't give a fuck about Jeff Goldblum. Should we go back to the family situation?
Oh, what could they possibly even say that's even relevant at this point?
But fuck all, really.
Yeah.
Should we leave it?
That's what I kind of want to go to bed, to be honest.
Fair enough. Fair call, well made. Yeah, so, I mean, everything's a bit fucked then.
I mean, we'll see. We'll see.
No, it is.
I don't.
It is.
I mean, the Labour Party is fucked. I mean, I think that if there was ever a moment that should put together the impetus for a party to a kind of a broader movement, the left of Labour, like, now should be what it is, right? I mean, obviously, I think everyone should join the Greens and try and make them into a more fighting force and make them more populist. But if people like Corbyn and Sultana and the exiles from Labour want to start something new, like, now would clearly be the time that they should.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think I agree with you. Yeah. The Green Party probably are the best for it, but as I've said, I mean, Ramsey, if he goes as leader, I might join, but
The thing is, what I think the biggest problem they have is that I hear so many times from people going, "Oh, we thought they were just an environmentalist party," and unless you get your position heard by people, which again, even then, even if you're on the media every day, lots of people just won't even interact with you. They just see Green and think that you are just an environmentalist single issue party, which we aren't. We aren't that at all. That's going to be a problem if people continue to have that perception. And you either got to change that perception or find a way of doing something different, which is why I think the idea of a green left coalition, right, similar to what they have in the Netherlands, like have a new left-wing party and form an official coalition with the Greens, run on like a joint slate of the election, whatever, probably the best way of being electorally successful. But again, you'd have to get the Greens on board specifically with that. I don't think that there are many members of the party that would want to, but whatever.
True, but like, I suppose the problem the Greens have is it's literally in the name, right? Like, if you call yourself the nativist party or sort of the national party, like, it's sort of in the name. People are going to think you're a bit more one-trick pony than you might otherwise get taken for. Which, I mean, at this point, like, it's well established as the brand, so you're not going to change that. But
yeah,
they've got to broaden themselves out, really.
They do. They absolutely do. I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Who shall we go over to?
I mean, it's Sunday, so I'm going to raid Mooncat because she's always live on Sunday after we finish Laura Kay.
Yeah, okay, we can go with Mooncat. Yeah, I don't. Double raid arena.
Absolutely.
Mooncat. Yeah, she's good people.
Very true.
Okie doke.
Right, everyone, I order you to follow KF Logan 1875 on Twitch and Kevin Logan, just the name, on YouTube. Go and do it, please.
I command you with every fibre of my being to go and support No Justice MTG on all of the platforms.
We both have Patreon, by the way, if you want to give us money too.
Indeed, indeed. Yes, I'll be back tomorrow with probably Christy. I think she's back from her trip, so she should be back, and we'll probably, I don't know, do something, whatever. And I presume you'll be back at some point.
Yep, I'll be back tomorrow on my own as well.
Cool. Okie doke. Thank you everyone for listening and watching.
And Free Palestine.
Free Palestine. Bye.
Goodbye.